Oh,
Wow.
hi guys,
Hello,
I am
hello.
your.
Everyone.
So for us joining
How
us tonight, I am your lovely administrado Kaizen. Together, I'm being joined by my other lovely administrado Josh and the people from Dragon Forge.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yay!
Hello.
hello,
Hello.
So,
hello.
let's do this by, I guess, by order to my right from this stream. So let's start with Louis. Please introduce yourself and so on.
Hi, I'm the
L-
dealer.
l-
I'm the plastic dealer. Nice to meet everybody. Love you all, especially
hello.
my players. Laro tayo soon. Passing it over to Keith over there.
Yes. Actually, wait. Let me before that. Let me add to that. Introduce yourself and what is currently on your painting table.
Oh
I'm Louie.
yes.
I've
So
been hobbying since, I think, Minis 2013. Pero syempre, bata pa lang tayo. Kaya di pa natin afford we wanted to buy. Right now, I have this is Helith. She's a Warcaster for War Machine. And a War Machine, a literal War Machine from War Machine. This
A
is
little war
Voided.
machine.
When something dies, it makes it a ghost. So yeah, that's me. Passing it over to Keith.
All right.
Uh, Hello, everyone. I'm Keith. I'm one of the plastic buyers. uh, I've been buying minis since 2022. Yeah. I'm currently
Bata pa.
painting one of my balloons
Yeah.
for
nice. All right.
Blip.
my one of my blimps. So yeah. Uh, Passing it to, I don't know. Is it below me or
Calvin. Calvin na. Yeah,
passing it to
So
the horse?
I'm Alvin. I don't know why I'm here, but I buy lots of plastic too sometimes. You cannot trust me. I am painting like this big art supply Ava 01 figure thing. I can send
Oh,
pictures, but I don't really know how because I
no
my
worries,
mic is
fam.
dead. No, my mic is okay, but my camera is dead. Yeah. Hey, I'll pass it over to my right, which is Mr. Badgeman in his cockpit.
Hi. So I'm Badge. I've been playing tabletop games since I don't know 2008, 2009. No, let's go back. I'll age myself since the 90s.
Oh,
Oh.
oh,
Um,
oh.
yes. So what's on my tabletop? I have a smattering of War Machine, plastic, but also metal. I have some plastic battle tech, and yeah, let's just say my backlog is pretty varied and huge.
Hey, felt.
So,
Well.
Jello's turn. Oh no, this way, Jello.
Yeah, this one. Right. So hi, I'm Jello. So if Louis is the plastic dealer, I'm the plastic pusher and influencer. So
That's so true. That is so true.
everyone in the forge knows that.
Kompleto kayo ah.
Oh, buong system na kami. So for me naman, I've actually been painting ever since I was a kid. So I remember my dad used to have like those cheap plastic toy soldiers. He would go like, okay, go paint them for me. And right now on my tabletop, I'm actually painting a bunch of vehicles. I have a half track here. I have another smaller half track, and then a Panzer IV, the tank, and then a Jeep. What was that? 4x4. So yeah, that's about it.
Oh, nandito na si Louie. Currently on the road. Humabol na
Hi
siya.
guys! Sorry,
Guwapo daw
I'm
siya
just
ngayon.
Here's
listening.
other Louis.
Refer to him as guwapo daw.
Oh.
Yeah. Pogi and guapo, you'll know the difference.
Just go. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
I will
Okay.
share some of
Since
mine. Hindi, ikaw muna, Josh.
sige, sige,
Oh,
sige.
sige.
Hi
Go.
guys, it's me Josh. Right now I'm actually building. Well, he's in pieces right now, so I'll just show his stat card. I'm building a battery build for Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Nice, nice.
Ah,
So yun. Currently in pieces. Here's his. I guess this is his shoulder pad. Yeah, really small. So yun. That's what I'll be working on during this stream, and I think I'll also be working on Ulit. So yeah,
Ako
good.
naman, I have this Space Marine. I don't know if you guys can see it. That's Space Marine
Wow.
right there. Pero Sif! A mini I got from Sif. I
Oh,
think it's
okay.
Lannisters that I'm still finishing. Tapos a small bus that I'm painting. Like a Bastarian from Baldur's Gate. Yeah, that's pretty
Oh,
much
mga
it.
Astarion mo na yan.
Huh?
Ang dami mo ng Astarion ah.
Kasi
Yeah.
that's for the workshop and I'm gonna sell them on Comiket. So,
I
for
see.
Yeah.
Comiket Pride. So, the gayest person I could think of for Comiket Pride was Astarion. So, there we go.
Good idea.
Sell. O
Okay.
ikaw, ano, ikaw, Pogi Louie, what are you
Ano
working
na sa
on while in
dashboard
your
mo?
car?
Ano sa
Well,
dashboard
I'm
mo?
on the
Namiss mo
way.
eh. Tapos na intro
I
ko
am.
eh. This is one
I am
more.
on the way to be painting my Night's Watch from A Song of Ice and Fire. Nudge to Dragon Forge to start stocking that stuff if you guys want.
We'll talk about that in a bit. No, ang philosophy
Ooh.
namin is we play everything.
Oh, you
Okay.
should.
Detriment
Okay.
of our wallets and sanity, but and skill
Tama yan.
level as well. Like,
Oh,
we play everything,
good.
but
Tama
not
yan.
particularly well.
The more budol, the
We'll
merrier.
be happy to demo for you if you let us know. We'll be there and demo for you guys.
Sure.
Good to
See,
hear. Good to
see.
hear. But that's what's gonna be on my table in the next few minutes when I get home.
Okay,
Alright.
so
So,
Josh, start us
sige.
off
So,
with our
without
question.
Indeed. So, the entire crux of this episode, no, is to talk about a handful of games that, for a while, were actually pretty popular, or like in terms of wargaming here in the Philippines. A bunch of people were playing them, and then there was a bit of a lull period, you might say, and then nowadays, more like in the past couple of months, in the past year, more and more people have been tawag doon, getting back into them, and more players have been getting back or trying them out for the first time. So,
Mhm.
namely, the games we're going to be talking about, as you can see in our poster, are Bolt Action, BattleTech, Malifaux, and of course, War Machine. All right. So some of
Woohoo!
these games may be familiar to some of you. Others might have heard about them, got interested in them, and some of you might not have even heard of these games. So that's why we're here. We're here to talk about them with our lovely guests from the Dragon Forge. So let's start things off, no, with something that's a bit more down to earth. No, let's set aside the fantasy element of things, and let's go to a more real world, real world setting. Let's talk about Bolt Action. Yeah.
Yo,
Now, Bolt Action, no, it's a historical game, right?
Yes, sir.
Uh, yeah, it's a historical game, and in the local scene, historicals are not as prevalent compared dun sa fantasy settings of other games, right? So it's actually pretty rare to see people playing historicals when compared to those other games. So I want to ask, no, for Bolt Action, people interested in Bolt Action, how does the game play? No, how does the game play, and what sets it apart from other systems?
I think for this one, I'll do a really short one. My take on it is, one, I really like the random activation. Don't taste that anywhere else. Very exciting. Two, I really like
Hmm.
building armies that are like a real battlefield, because I experience things more through doing something. So, like, I've played Call of Duty, and then the specific actions and operations stick out to you. So that's what calls to me the most about it. But for
Hmm.
like play quality versus the rest, I think I'll pass this to Jello, Keith, and Alvin, who are the ones who really made me all right, put it on the shelf because you guys want to play it. Let's go do it. So yeah, kapag ako nakita si Alvin at si Keith, eh. So okay, yeah.
Say it to
Okay,
you.
so I guess I can start. So actually, the bolt action community in Dragon Forge pretty much started with Alvin and Keith here on the podcast right now. So they were just two guys who decided to buy the Band of Brothers starter set. And then from
Nice.
then on, I learned about the two of them, and then we started building a community, started playing a lot of games. But I think the one thing that really makes bolt action unique is that it's the very immersive and realistic setting. So in other games where it would be based on like fantasy, where you would see dragons and like knights and space marines and aliens, with bolt action, it really comes down to the mortal men who fought the Second World War. And I think that's what really appeals to a lot of people. A lot of the people who
Hmm.
aren't really necessarily like into tabletop, you would have like your history nerds, you would be having people who are interested in like
Hmm.
uniforms and like equipment and so on and so forth. And when they
Do
come
you
to
get
bolt,
non-board gamers to play
yeah,
tabletop?
that's right, that's right. We even
Oh.
have like people from UP architecture, people who are professors who actually play bolt action.
Whoa.
So it's really cool. It's like bringing history to the tabletop and you becoming a part of it. I think that's what makes it really unique.
Right. That's awesome.
Let's hear
Well,
from Keith and Alvin. What do you guys like about bolt action? What do you
Keith, you go first.
start?
Wow. Wow, Alvin. Wow. Okay. Well, what I like about bolt action was well, was just like the crazy scenarios we could do, right? It's a very like I would say an open game too. Like it's very simple to learn once you get the hang of it. Like the crazy scenarios we were planning to do were like for example we would do Captain America with Red Skull with either the bolt action stuff, or like you could do like a Indiana Jones style mission with the
hold
bolt
on.
action stuff.
That's that. I'm sorry. That doesn't sound historical.
Wait, so like you put an actual Captain America and Indiana Jones model on the table? Is that it?
Yeah, we're still planning. I'm still thinking about how to do it, but I have a Malifaux model that looks like Indiana Jones, so so it just fits. But I like the random activations. That's one of them. It makes you think off your feet because you're like, oh shoot, I have to activate 5 in a row. Like, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna run away? Am I gonna like go down, like take cover and stuff like that? So it makes you think on your feet a lot. Like, um, I like the tanks too. It's cool. The tanks are cool. You just kill each other with tanks, and everything just dies so fast. You get shot like in real life. Like, you just die. Like, if someone shoots you,
Yeah.
like
Also,
so. I think Alvin, it's your turn.
Yeah, so
Actually,
like
for,
you said,
for before Alvin goes, before for the gamers here who are watching that aren't familiar with bolt action, whenever they say random activation, it's not alternate activation. Both players put a number of colored dice in a bag. Then that number is the number of units you have, and they will take turns. Nagbubunutan kayo, di ba? And
Yeah,
Yes.
based on
you
the
draw from the
mabunot na
bag.
dice, kung color blue ako, kung blue yung mabunot na dice, blue will go. And possible, blue ulit will go. And
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
possible that
You-
if ikaw yung go ng go, malamang, you will know later on, puro kalaban mo na yan. So, that's how the random activation goes in Bolt Action. It's super unique. And I've always been intrigued about hearing what people here say about that random activation.
The game can
I
pivot off
assume.
that mechanic. Ano? So go ahead, Alvin.
so yeah,
I
like
assume.
what was mentioned,
So
yeah.
a question. I assume. Sorry.
Okay.
He cut
Hello.
off.
Hello.
Sorry, I didn't
He
hear.
got someone.
So
Yeah, someone got cut
So,
off.
so I want. Okay, I want to ask. With the random activation, I assume that there are some tactics that certain factions can do to mitigate that. Like, is there a way to like choose who's going to activate next instead of
yeah,
random, or is it
to
purely
a certain
random talaga?
extent, there are certain game mechanics. Like for example, you have the German army, so they have a
Mm.
special army rule that allows them to be the first one to choose the order dice. And then there are also
Mm.
certain factions that are represented by their, like their historical strategy, like in real war. So, for example, if you were playing the French, you would have this rule wherein if you drew the first die from the bag, your opponent can choose whether or not you have to place that dice back into the bag and pick another one out. So it's very
Oh.
strategic, very tactical. So instead of like having to rely on buffs, there are also debuffs in the game. So I think that also like really appeals to people like regarding like flavors of rules.
You can also
Are we
have
gonna
your
ask si
lieutenant
Alvin?
like you can also have
After
lieutenant
you.
your lieutenant like order more, so you can activate three if you want to activate three in a row from one dice. You can do that as well. You can control the flow of the game sometimes with those actions. So for example, your
Yeah.
lieutenant, you'll snap to order two more of your guys that's within the range. So you'll have three activations back to back to back from one dice. So there's
Yeah.
some things you can do like that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I'm told that the game designer did it that way because it's supposed to be reenact the randomness of war. Parang yun yung
Yes.
rationale
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
of that
Correct, correct.
activation.
There's a lot of that in the game. Like they're all of them shoots on threes, and then you're just
Mm,
modifying range and like that because they're all like soldiers who are trained, right? So
mm.
it's like that. There's a lot of like stuff like that they built into the game.
Okay.
Uy,
So,
masagot din naman si Alvin. Or did I
Yeah,
totally zone
yeah.
out and
Alan,
for
All right. Yeah, yeah. So I have to say something. All right. So like what Keith said, bolt action is very mortal, actually people on the ground sort of thing. So when people die, they're actually killed. There are no super soldiers here. There's like um testosterone fuel, steroids or whatever. You're just a guy with a gun, and if you die, you die.
So real,
Yeah,
so
Oh,
real.
there's medics though, Alvin.
and the medics are not reliable like in real life. You get shot, you're probably dead.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, it feels very how do you say this relatable because everything feels very like intense, and if something cool happens, it's really cool. Like it's very hard for a soldier to like kill a tank, but if they do it, it feels meaningful. But once they charge a tank, they most likely will die next turn. But that's expected because they get fired upon. But yeah,
So
I am
real.
not a World War II history buff. I'm a World War II history enjoyer. So I like the
Same.
Yes.
Band of Brothers, those kinds of movies and films. So I get to relive those scenes through the game and watch everyone die for the glory of whatever country they fight for. Yay!
yeah.
Well said.
Mga fans
Lucas,
kayo in the chat, ah.
Keith, may fan ka. Si
Kaya
Lucas.
nga.
Lucas,
Oh,
Yeah.
sexy Keith.
yo.
Sexy Keith. There's
Lucas is
actually Stephanie Lon.
Supporter
yeah,
here.
question about the rules. Say in,
All
in,
right.
in,
So,
in both action, when there's no pre-measuring allowed, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no
There
One of
pre-measuring
the
pre-measuring.
few
allowed.
games disallowing
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
When you shoot and you don't, how does that
You have
work?
to eyeball it. You have to eyeball
Yes,
it.
So
So
you
if it missed
try.
it,
If it's out of
What?
So
range, you waste your
you
shot.
can
nothing. You
roll
waste your
yes,
activation.
to shoot,
yes,
and then kung wala sa range, wala na.
Oh
yeah.
my
You
god.
can't
So
even pre-measure moving.
Me and Badge probably have feelings about this because back in the day, all your miniature war games didn't allow pre-measuring. Warhammer didn't allow it, and that was one of the way the old guard gate kept miniature games because like they just straight out play you because they knew what 12 inches looked like on the board without guessing, right? So um, yeah, that's one of the last few games that has it. But like all rules naman, di ba, you can house rule it. So if you feel like it's preventing a newbie from entering the hobby, you can just say, no, but if you want to play, we can just play
mm,
with pre-measuring.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
Yep,
Ah.
yep.
that's,
And
It
yeah,
takes
Warhammer
time to get
created it
used
too,
to.
if I recall. Like I think Rick Priestley was also the writer, tama, of the rules or
Yes.
something.
Yes.
parang
So
everybody who's doing miniatures naman at one time or another worked for GW back in 87 or the early 90s, right? But
oh, that's
I just
true.
wanted to add na when we talk about bolt action, we just don't cover bolt action. Like for example, on the way na yung order ni Keith tsaka ni Alvin na Weird War 2, right? You say you have World War 2, but you have Weird War 2, which is some
basta
genre.
Warlord games you guys carry.
Yeah, yeah. So yung conflict 47 like adds crazy mechs and
Yes.
stuff to bolt action. And then if you have anything
Mm,
on the Warlord Games website, you can get it through us. We have a monthly order. And so what are people looking at? They're looking at yun nga, Conflict 47. We've had questions about Napoleonics for Turnip 28.
Let's
We've had
go.
questions about Pike and Shot. And lots of men are obsessed about the Roman Empire, so the internet tells me, and so you can get stuff for that kind of war game too, via Warlord Games.
Solid.
So
Do you
That's
also distribute the books that they sell?
Yeah, we can get anything on their website. The only thing is don't expect me to put the book on the shelf because I'm sure you've seen mga fire sale ng books ng hobby store. No? Ayaw niyo naman kami malugi, so we will not be putting books on the shelves. If you want
Okay.
books, tell me and I'll get it
Mm.
for you. But don't expect me to put it on the shelf because it's really gamble, like
Okay.
very hard
Mm.
to move a book on
They
the
have
shelf.
good books for people who are interested to check out modern
That's
games. Yeah.
true. That's true.
Okay.
And also, Louis, since you brought up the books, I think it's also important to consider that the third edition of Bolt
Ah,
Action is
yes, season
already on
change
the way
natin.
this
Oo.
September of this year. So we were already announced na the second edition books, the armies of books especially, and the second edition rule book will be outdated. So a lot kind of like the life cycle of Warhammer 40k. But the thing is that the second edition of Bolt Action has been here since 2016. So it was very over.
It's
Oh,
true. It's true.
wow.
Oh.
8 years.
Okay, uh, so I wanna dial back a bit because someone mentioned na the French have a specific tactic, the Germans have a specific tactic. So
Mm.
I want to move on to our next question, which is um sa bold action, what factions are available and what do you usually play? I assume lahat World War II. So the Germans are there, the French, the Russians are there,
Mhm.
the Americans are there.
Right. So anybody that fought in World War II is going to be there. So you mentioned quite a few now.
Yes.
The British, the Italians, the Poles, and the French, I think, were the ones you did mention. Jello, did I
May
miss
Pinoy ba?
anybody?
May Pinoy, di ba?
Um, yes. We even have Filipinos well represented in the armies of United States.
Hook
So
balap na yan.
ay walang hook wala, pero actually may magandang Philippine Scouts. So it's an infantry option where you have soldiers mounted on horses, and they can actually dismount from the horses and shoot while on horseback. A lot like their real life counterpart. So pretty much every nation, even the obscure ones, you have Romanians, you have Finnish, you have Czechoslovakians, you have pretty much every nation that fought in World War II represented on the
In
tabletop.
World War II.
And
Yes.
balance siya. Like, how's the balance like? Is it may meta ba? Or is it just more like play around your own scenario type of deal?
Sorry. So
Like,
at the Forge, generally, it's very casual the way we play things. Like we like to collect lots of models, and especially the good looks cool, trash on the tabletop, top tier yan sa Dragon Forge. That's usually how
That's
we
right. That's
treat
right.
our. So as for the meta, we don't tournament enough for Bolt Action to know. All
Yeah.
we know is we like to show up to the table and bring our random armies and play.
Yeah.
Which is I think part of what the appeal of Bolt Action is. It's you're there to do a reenactment of a historical rather than
Mhm.
to own a tournament. In my opinion, from the attitudes of the people who play it, that's how I see Bolt Action. But I guess Jello and Keith and Alvin may feel different.
So
Uh,
currently in the Forge, we have a lot of players playing the German army, and I think the biggest appeal of the German army is because they had the biggest tanks and the coolest weapons in World War II. So Germany also they innovated with the assault rifle. So in bolt action, well, by the name itself, most of your soldiers will have a bolt action rifle. So they have a range of like
Mm.
24 inches. It only shoots once. But and for the German army, where they have the STG 44, it can actually shoot twice and has the exact same stats as an assault
Oh.
rifle.
yeah, and one thing with
Ako,
bolt
I play
action,
the British.
yes, one thing with bolt action is that the stats are very uniform across all armies because like a rifle is a rifle,
All soldiers.
submachine gun is a machine gun, it's all the same. So most things play similarly. It's just some rules make them work a little bit differently. Like what Jello said, the Germans have more assault rifles. The US can call in 2 airstrikes, which is a hit or miss depending on how good your pilot is. Yeah,
So
May mga faction specific
okay,
rules sila that will make them a bit different.
okay.
I have
So
an important question.
more on casual side.
Actually,
It's
what
not
I
necessarily.
That's the
oh,
mouse
Would you say
exist for
more
the
on casual
Germans.
side?
Sorry, what was the question? Medyo
Sorry,
choppy.
can you
So
guys
would you
repeat
say
that?
na would you say na more on casual side yung the way you guys do things as opposed to like heavy into competitive, heavy into you
Sa
know
Bolt Action, yes.
mm,
Sa Bolt Action, yes. It's about trying random scenarios. It's about experiencing this tank or trying to pop it with your random infantry. Um, Also, marveling at the ridiculousness of history. Like I didn't know until I played Bolt Action that the Japanese had these massive lance tank poppers. Like it's a tank popper on a stick. It's like it's ridiculous on the tabletop. Like what the hell is that? And the idea is you run it up to an opposing tank and it pops on the hull of the tank and you hope you get through it, right? So it's like Alvin was saying, I'm a history enjoyer. I'm not a buff. So if I can learn history by interacting with a tabletop game, I really enjoy it. So I didn't know that the Green Beret was a British thing. So the British commandos are known for being the Green Berets, and
Mm.
it's a whole thing. So parang for me, it's kind of like a gateway into history for me because I'd rather play a game
Mm.
than like read a history book. So I think that's the enjoyment I get at least, and more or less where the rest of us are in terms of of playing it instead of like oh, I show up and I'm gonna own the rest of the competition. Right? There are games like that at the start, but it's definitely not well done.
I
But if we
see.
do tournaments,
Okay.
Louis, I could see it becoming
Tapos,
competitive though. Like if you could just bring
are
the
there like
cheesiest stuff.
narrative modules?
Jello can tell me if there are narrative
Oh
modes.
yes, definitely. So for both action, you have your rule books, you have your armies of books, but you also have these things called campaign books, and these campaign books are themed after certain battles in World War II. So for those who watch Saving
Mhm.
Private Ryan, we have a campaign book for D-Day. For those who watch Enemy
Oh.
at the Gates, we have a campaign book for the Battle of Stalingrad.
Oh.
For those who want to fight on the Pacific, we
Oh.
also have Empire in Flames. So there's actually a lot of narrative play there, and these campaigns are actually very enjoyable because you can fight each battle in its historical sequence. So let's say, for example, in the D-Day sector, you would have the Omaha beach landings, and then you would have street-to-street fighting in Normandy, and these scenarios would be very different from each other. And at times, it would actually allow you to play on these things called theater selectors, and theater selectors are a way for you to play your armies in the way that they're represented in history. So, for example, in
In
the
the
D-Day
during the
campaign book,
actual period where they were
during the
fighting.
actual period. So, for example, in the Omaha beach landings, there were actually no tanks that arrived with the infantry to be able
Mm-mm.
to field the tank, and most
So may list building restriction
Bangalore
when you're
TPs.
playing it. I think Badge had the question pala, before we pivot somewhere else. Badge, you said you had an important question.
Yes, it's an important question. Is the mouse available for the Germans in Bolt Action?
Is the
Mouse.
Mouse.
ah? I don't think so. I don't think so. But that's not stopping you of all people from
Making
Bash
one?
making one. If you so desire. Kasama naman sa wargaming yan, di ba? Making your own
I mean,
version.
I
Wait,
think
so
the
are
mouse
you
has
guys
to be.
Zero
saying
pros.
bolt action is miniature agnostic per se?
No naman,
No.
not
May
necessarily.
scale eh.
May scale siya eh.
Ah.
But kit
Okay.
bashing is not frowned upon in general when you're playing casually, right? You can even if you are on a budget proxy or I'm sure nobody at the store will object if you bring your bolt action figures and tell me you're playing Imperial Guard. As long as the bases are correct. That's how we just want people to play with really at the store.
Wala namang wala namang rivet counter sa inyo, 'di ba?
Wala.
Okay.
Actually, since we're
So,
talking about kit bashing, before we move on, sorry, this is also morely
yeah.
for me because I have a Band of Brothers set, and I'm coming from galing ako Warhammer. Nahihirapan ako sa instructions ng
Yeah.
bolt action. It's
Yeah.
like it just tells me what I have. It doesn't tell me how to build a squad and how many of that I can. Like feeling ko sometimes nasasayangan ako. I may not optimize the sprue, and
So list
then what's
building
my.
Yeah. So
Do
you
you
have
guys
to
like
have your armies of X book to know how many submachine guns to put in to put in your squad. So I feel like that's one of the and so I'll be completely honest. It's not this war game. It's not perfect. It's not like It's not the best at everything, it has its strengths, yun nga, random activation, very different feel gameplay wise and everything. I'll be honest, the plastic is not GW, but what is really. And at the same time, yun nga, the list building's a bit opaque unless you pick up Battle Scribe. So just pick up Battle Scribe, take a peek at how you can load out your guys, and that should answer your questions on how to optimize your spruce, in my opinion.
And everything I need is in the kit. No? Wala namang excess yun. Or may
May
excess yun.
sobra, you'll have bits, you'll have extra machine
You'll have
guns,
a lot of
stuff like
bits.
that.
You'll have a lot of
Yes.
bits.
You'll have too many
So
to do with them.
that's a selling point. Then, like, there's lots of, I now have lots of guns to down power my Astra Militarum stuff if I ever get to it. Na parang it's a backward world where they only have bolt action guns, right? That'll be a thing that's doable. You'll have enough.
Puro mga ano yan, mga lost technology na
Yeah,
ginagamit
yeah.
in the future.
Dark Age of not technology, pre-Dark Age of technology.
Pre-Dark Age. Okay, so since we're on the topic of miniatures, no, kumusta naman yung yung detail and yung yung detail and how it builds? How do the official miniatures build
Yeah,
in terms
si
of
Alvin and si
quality, in
Jello.
terms of like?
They should be able to tell you.
I think Keith has a lot to say about that. Keith, would you?
Yeah, sige. Keith.
I I don't like metal models. Okay, it's a pain in the ass. I end up gluing my own fingers more than gluing the model itself. Some of them were metal models, which I was surprised when I bought them, and some were not. But it is what it is, I guess. But the plastic ones, they were okay. The first time I made the Band and Brothers one, my guys were doing funny poses because I didn't know what to do with them. I knew what weapon to put, but like what other Louis said, it was like you had this box and they showed you what you have, and then okay, build it. So some of my guys were like just doing weird poses. But I guess that's what makes them unique. But the metal stuff I just cannot stand in any miniature. It's just a pain for me. Alvin, Jello.
I feel
Right.
your
Yeah.
pain.
So like you said, the plastic models are fine. They're pretty good. But Warlord has some weird stuff like half resin, half metal, which is just weird. And the resin models are not that well printed. There's some like they don't look too good. Like they're like lines everywhere and stuff's like bent. And the metal doesn't really fit that well sometimes into the resin. So you have to like do your own like cutting and stuff and try and make it work. Hopefully, if not, then sad.
So yeah, stick to some of the newer sculpts and the plastic, and you should be fine. Kasi nga, I feel like we're really moving away naman na from resin and metal in terms of miniatures. But it's really.
And also, I think it's important.
Oh, nice.
What's that?
Ay,
Sorry,
go on,
Jello.
guys.
Naputol yata si Jello. Ayun, yung sample siya, no? Ng plastic.
Sample si
Hello.
Louie.
Si Louis. Yeah,
Ayun.
go ahead.
The Roman Legionnaires.
Nice one, Louis.
So this
Okay.
is a plastic sample for people who are interested. There's
Yes.
a spruce food stock full. Now you can order it in Dragonforge. You don't have to wait.
Yes.
So yeah,
Hello?
I'd grade
Okay.
assembly at like if GW with the hiding all the mold lines in under pauldrons and under the sculpt is like a 10, and you have bolt action. It's like an 8 when it's plastic, but unfortunately it's a 6 when it's metal plus resin. According to Alvin, I've never done a metal plus resin figure myself. The details are this old. Are these old? The faces are great on the plastic ones, and then if you get the metal ones, it's really old school. Like you really feel that this guy used to be sculpting the goofy ass GW stuff from back in the day. But yeah, that not the greatest, but very serviceable, and the plastic's good. The plastic's good, and it's quick to build, and they're generous with the spruce.
Kaizen, can we flash some images of
There you go.
Here we go.
Okay. Sino nag-paint nito? These are great, actually.
Oh, hi. So that's actually from the official Warlord site, just so people can have a general idea of how the battlefields in tabletop actually look like. So people over at UK, where Warlord originates from, they really like spending time on painting their terrain, making it look realistic. But you can take a look at the other photos there, which are the ones I painted.
Oh, is this in
Yeah, that one, that one.
Dragonforge?
Check that out.
Oza, how many of
Oh.
you are playing this one? Is this a
That's
five-way?
Oh,
right.
that's
It's
So
Dami
Lucas!
nyo.
May
Ay,
terrain ba to?
dami niyo.
this is like a 1v1v1v1 free for all. Yep, four armies.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Battle of the Four Armies.
Uy, Sir Albert yan
terrain,
ah.
Oh,
terrain,
And
gawa
then
ni
we
na
have our
Jello
oh,
yan and
Shirado.
a bunch of
may
other
bahay
people.
kubo pa. How
We've
cute!
been like using random stuff and sometimes buying
That
space
Bahay
from Lazada.
Kubo is actually pretty cool because it was made by a community member who's part of UP architecture.
It's a massive
Yeah.
kubo. I mean,
Oh.
large
Hindi
enough.
to hindi to terrain accurate, but may pine tree tas may palm trees.
Tapos
Yan,
yung
meron yan.
giant mango yun, no?
It's
I see ano. I see
Oh.
Northern
I
Philippines, let's just
see
say that. Nasa
I
Tagaytay
saw
yan.
Sir I saw
Oh,
ano. I saw Sir Albert Labrador in that previous photo sa
call to action.
IPMS.
If you
talaga.
Oh.
So that's the army Jello painted for me. Those are my Red Devils. They're the store
Oh.
Budol army.
Wow, ang ganda
So if
ng
you wanna
base. Parang
learn,
halata yung flock
you know. Anong brand ng flock mo,
Using the
Jello? Sa may
Kaizen
hindi.
trademark.
Ay nako
Parang
Kaiser.
kilala ko yan Kilala ko yung flock Oh, but I really like pati yung there's artillery like this
Galing,
is
ginawang
included
focus
in the
star.
box
So
if
the
you
starter,
buy.
so actually the starters are super good value even if they come with the metal stuff. Kasi it gives you like a maximum. Because the recommended pointage is 1,000, and
Ang
I just
dami.
bought the British Army starter, and that's it. It's 1,000 or like 950 points, and I just need to add a jeep, and it's a full army, right? So I've not had a
Wow.
game where you bought the starter and you're almost at max pointage.
Wow.
It's been a while. It's been a while. So, although at the Forge they like to play 1-5 so that they can bring out more tanks and be crazier. So, yeah.
Wow. These minis are cool.
So not advisable yung puro infantry ka kasi starter tapos kalaban mo puro tank. Kahit kapag even points, talo ka malamang.
No,
Uh,
it's doable. It's doable.
it's
No,
doable
I
because
think
it's
it's
very
doable.
objectives based. Eh. Like
Ah,
You charge the
there can
tank.
be a scenario that's bad for tanks.
Okay.
It
And
also sometimes depends on the terrain.
Yep.
Yeah,
Tanks are really
kasi-
hard to. Yeah.
Yeah, if you put too much terrain, the tank you can barely shoot or anything.
Yeah, it's kind
You
of
have so
realistic. Like if you're doing
Yeah.
a city terrain, your tank's not gonna have a lot of angles of fire, so you
You
just
can't move.
fight the
Yeah.
tank, right?
You
So
can't
Yes.
shoot through walls, like break the terrain and then
They
expose.
can break terrain.
not all though, right?
Hmm.
Not all, but most.
Not
some.
all, but most. Yeah.
And in most missions, tanks cannot hold or score objectives. Vehicles cannot.
Yup.
You just would rely on the person on the ground.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So you mentioned the people playing over at the Forge, no? Do you have any events or regular games? Like obviously my regular games kayo, but like do you have any events scheduled for this or any particular event that you want to I guess tell people about if they want to join, if they want to learn?
For bolt action specifically, wala pa at the moment. We do have a regular demo. I think we're due now for quarter two because we did a demo in quarter one. So for quarter two, which is almost halfway through, right? It's exactly halfway through today. We're definitely planning more demos for all these games. But for bolt action, I still have to talk to my pusher over there, si Jello, who kung kailan siya libre para magturo ng bolt action. But we will get around to it soon. But regular games, so the way most of the gaming works at the store is we have a chat group for every game, which is horrible because we don't need more chats in our lives. But at the same time, if you want to play on Friday and mostly Friday and Sunday, so weirdly Saturday is like a block day for our miniatures players. Um, Most of the time it's like, okay, what do you guys want to play this Friday? Is it any of the 15 odd systems we play at the store? And then whichever is the flavor of the week, that's what people show up with. And sometimes you'll see like 3 or 4 different games played on a Saturday and a Sunday, which will include bolt action. um, just tell your play group that oh, we want to do this. So if you want to learn, you can actually just message the page or us, me at the chat, ask to be added to the page and say, hey, want to learn bolt action. If it's a Friday or Sunday, it's very likely that somebody will take up the mantle of bringing you to World War II on the tabletop. And that works for that way for practically any game that we play at the store.
Actually, this is not exactly a question, but I do have to say, super kudos to you guys. You guys have always carried obscure systems and you made it work. Like War Machine, Malifaux, and parang yung Warhammer yung minority sa inyo. And I feel like
Oh,
as a hobby store, it looks great. As in, kudos to you
thank
guys.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I owe it to Keith and Alvin. Many of the games that we're discussing tonight are because of them. Saying, "Oy, gusto ko maglaro nito." Okay, let me see. I'll look it up online. If it's nice, oh sure, this looks interesting. Then we'll pick it up. Because
Nice, nice.
I'm kind of into new. Like it's really bad for my backlog, but sometimes after I play the game 1 or 2 times, or even a faction or a sub army, I'll be like, oh, parang ready na ako for a new one. So I'm easy really to talk to about adding stuff to the story. But
So,
I think we should move to the next system para naman
Yes,
ma-airtime
sure.
lahat ng
yeah.
ano.
Hi
Oo,
guys,
tama.
before you move, I have one question. Kamusta naman yung like if you buy a starter set, wallet friendly ba siya?
How much is a starter set? Is it like 7.5? So it's like combat patrol, but like I said, it's almost max points.
Yeah, you have
Um,
50
so
plus models.
I would say
Heavy.
it's on the
50 plus?
cheaper side. It's on the cheaper side. Maybe abot din siya ng
Yeah.
150 to 200 USD starters. So,
Oh.
but the starter will definitely get you to almost max points in most cases. So, really good. We do have to wait though for the points update with the edition change, but I don't think they're gonna change their affordability factor naman.
And usually,
I
the airborne starters are much more cheaper compared to the army starters because airborne doesn't have any vehicles. They're just guys with parachutes.
Yup. Baka naman na. So if you want something with tanks, it'll cost you a little bit more. But I think so. The starters are, I think, industry standard na yung mga combat patrol. I feel like
Yes.
medium price, cheaper than that's pretty rare. But there are systems that are much cheaper than that. But at the same time, for the amount of models you need to get to max pointage, this is probably some of the fastest. In terms of when you buy a starter set, you're maybe done. You might be almost done. Very rare yun, as opposed to the other games we talk about.
Okay.
Alright.
Louis. So
Uh,
that's so interesting.
shall we,
Starting
you know, shall we
it was
move on to battle? All right, sige. Now, sige. So, BattleTech.
Oof.
From what I know, no, BattleTech in this lineup of games is the oldest out of all of these. Because I've
Yeah.
heard of people playing BattleTech like back in the 90s, back in the 80s. No, so
Vintage charge.
let's talk about that. 'Cause you're dating yourself.
Oh yeah, I'm
No,
embracing
pero
it
sige.
now.
Let- let- but let's talk about that. No, so I think out of all of these, BattleTech is the one I know the least about. No, despite it being here for so long. So, paano ba yan? How is BattleTech played? Like, what's I know it's next, but how
Okay.
does it? How does it? Yeah.
Louis, I'll take this.
Go, Badge. That's exactly what you're here for.
So actually, the thing is with BattleTech, you have one of the unique things about this, you actually have two rule sets.
Hmm.
The original rule set, which goes by Classic, yes, that dates back to the 90s. And it's basically your big stumpy robot simulator on a table with pen and paper, and it plays more like, think about it more like Dungeons and Dragons or um, some RPG where you have to record everything on a whole sheet of paper, and then you move across hex maps. That's classic, and essentially the rule set for that hasn't changed since maybe the 80s to 90s.
Mm.
And it's the same right now. There's been a few tweaks here and there, but the rule set hasn't changed. There's been enhancements, but basically it's the same thing. Now, Alpha Strike, the second rule set, this was published, mm, probably first published around 2013. I think 2013. I want to say 2013. Yeah, that one's a bit different. So it's kind of like streamlining BattleTech to something that I guess would be more accessible to other people. Because instead of your mech sheets, everything is reduced to a stat card. And instead of hex maps, just like other war games, you use measuring tape, you use a full table, and it reduces a lot of the complexity of classic. But as far as I'm concerned, I like classic more.
Yeah. So I feel like yung Alpha Strike's your introductory, and well, it does favor having more mix for more activations. Generally, not but not in all cases. And there's a lot less bookkeeping. So
Yeah.
if like I have people who play Alpha Strike over Classic because it's kid friendly. Even the painting is very kid friendly because the models are usually one piece, and then there's lots of flat panels and everything. It's easy to paint. Not no practically zero assembly required unless you're a maniac like Badger over here.
Uh,
We'll talk about. He'll talk about. You had some very specific questions about the loadouts and stuff. So I think if the summary is fine, I think Badge can talk about like, do you have to assemble a battle tech figure? What are the modifications? How
okay.
do loadouts play?
I have to branch out a little bit to answer that question. So essentially, there are several sources. Okay, fine. There are two main sources for battle techniques. One is the plastic that Louis pushes to all of us. So they look like this, and they come out of the box assembled and done. You can slap a coat of primer on it, start baiting, and you're done. That's what they look like. On the other hand, the one that's kind of harder to get are the metal models. Now, the metal models are still in production, but these are vintage sculpts. They look like 80s, 90s American mecha, and so they look really wonky, but they're metal. So, in terms of actually um, the plastic models, which is the one that's readily available, um, they're made out of PVC, so there's some good detail there. But since they're one big advantage, by the way, as an aside of BattleTech, is that they're very inexpensive for what you get.
Mm, yeah,
You
the
could,
cheapest system.
how much is? I mean, like, how much is the game of Armored Combat starter, Louis? Three something,
Three eight, three eight,
three
and
eight.
that's yeah.
You buy that, you're set. You actually don't have to buy anything else ever again. But of course, you want to buy all the cute, nice, badass plastic that's not
Yep.
in that starter. But
Wow.
yeah,
Yep.
so so for the miniatures, okay. Um, there's so PVC. There's a lot of mold types. Um, you have to clean it up and all that. Or if you're like me, I will actually disassemble the mech first before putting it back, clean it up and put it back together again. And um, but you can get away with just like cleaning it normally with a X-Acto knife, clean up your mold lines and all that. And because battle mechs have a lot of panels, a lot of little nooks and crannies, you can like slap shop it and you get the painted forest really, really quickly. That looks nice because there's a lot of detail for you to go into. But yeah,
Maraming
keep it
pupuntahan
apart.
yung wash, yung
Yep.
liquid talent nyo. You can spray paint the color on, and then null oil it, yung nilalaklak ninyong null oil. You can just put it on top of it, and you've got panel lines Then maybe you just hit a few of the shoulder pads, add some numbers, and you'll be solid.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. But then again, there are also other people since it's been around for like a long time. There are some very talented people who spend a lot of time on their
Yes.
mechs, and they look very, very, very nice.
But miniatures are required to play, right? Even if it's an old game, or can I play it just pen and paper? Is it possible to pen and paper?
You can play it with pen and paper. Um, the rule books actually state that it's okay to proxy.
Wow.
That's why in the starter, actually, you get miniatures, right? You get 8 miniatures in the starter, but they give you a whole bunch of more of cardboard standees, so you can play bigger games. You're allowed to use anything as long as you have a token that can show the facing of the mech. You're good to go. Of
Wow.
course, of course, we want our plastic.
Some people 3D print their
Money.
mechs, and we won't stop you from playing with them naman at the store. When you want to, totally fine. Kasi nga, it says so in the rule books, and this doesn't. This we do have tournaments, and even their 3D printed stuff's okay. And I know that's very controversial. Like store owners say, pwede 3D printed. Sa BattleTech, pwede talaga. Anyway, it's like Badge said. It's not like you'll only buy 3D printed. Diba?
And the
And our
company,
most, yeah, go ahead.
sorry to interrupt, but they
No,
make a
go
lot of
ahead. They make a
BattleTech.
lot of.
The company that produces them makes a lot of money just with this business model now. One starter, okay ka na.
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but I hope so. There's
I
a
mean,
lot of
like they're
players like it.
fine. Here's the thing. I guess they, in a sense, they make a lot of money from the mix, but they make more money, I think, from the source books, the rule books, the novels. You'll have to remember that BattleTech is an ancient game, and you have a big world, and there's like 100 something novels. Um, there's all sorts of stuff that they make money off on. So I guess, I mean, like they've been around for a while. So I guess the business model is viable.
So for people who are not into BattleTech or haven't heard of BattleTech, at least from my exposure, the games that I've seen are quite interesting because it's like someone brings one less than 5 mechs per side, and then parang one mech, ang dami niyang baril. Tapos, yung mech mo, ang dami rin niyang wounds, pare. And the wounds are tracked on like yung arm, na damage yung arm. So kapag nasira
Yeah,
yung wala na yung weapon sa arm na yan. Tapos yung
yeah.
leg, kapag nasira yung leg, di na siya makakagalaw. That's, I think, very unique in a war game. Tapos you can target the legs. Para may VAT system yung gaming mo.
Can you call a shot badge? I haven't actually seen a mech that can target
Um,
specific
you can
sections.
call a shot, but it's very
Okay.
hard. You need to have very specific equipment, and you can't call a headshot. But it
Oh.
Oh,
can be done, and you have very high penalties if you want to do that.
So
Okay.
But
headshot,
yes, it's possible.
thematic deads dun, parang gano'n.
So
Yes,
what?
you.
So the brilliant thing about classic. So that does it happen in AAS badge? Meron bang cook off ammo or a pilot dead sa
Um,
Alpha Strike?
ammo can cook off in Alpha Strike, but you can't
Okay.
like call
Right.
shots on specific limbs. No.
And is there a headshot in Alpha Strike where it's auto dead yung mech? No, diba? So that's what's brilliant about Classic, and I think why some people prefer it. Because if you're into mechs, you're into the entire there's specific parts of the mech, right? And if you hit him in the ammo, it'll cook off. If you hit the pilot, he's dead. So that's one
Action.
of the appeals of
Mhm.
BattleTech is when you play Classic, it's really like you feel the bits and parts of your mech, and you really can sense na, oh my god, I'm so worried that if he hits me again, and you can notice like your arm's going away, right? Like, oh my god, he's hit my arm 15 times and the ammo's there, or he's hit my chest 15 times. Everything else is healthy, and I hope that I get hit somewhere else. With the facing too, the rear armor, there's much less. Can you guys look at the sample? Where can we get? I'm gonna
yeah, yeah,
type.
yeah.
A mech sheet.
Yeah, just so that I have an idea.
Oh, sige. Actually, you can upload it dun sa album that
Yeah.
that we
But
gave you.
this
Sige.
sounds it's very role play, no? I mean, it's safe to assume ba mas
Yeah, there's a lot of
heavily inclined role than
there's a bunch
competitive.
of
There's no
bookkeeping kasi with the
Oh, here Somebody just handed me a mech sheet. I don't know if you can see it through my cam. Nope,
Yeah, I-
it's camouflaged. You can't
I have
see it.
uploaded a mech sheet into the BattleTech folder.
Okay,
Just
okay, that's
Ayun.
better. That's better.
Tapos naka-laminate siya, di ba? Para pwede mong gamitin
yeah,
ulit.
so because you can just like whiteboard marker it and then you can play the same mech next
Yeah,
time.
save the paper.
So,
there
the
you
bigger
go.
part or wounds, ganun ba yan?
Yan, no? So kung titignan mo, yung front armor niya, ang daming pips. Pero pag nasa rear ka na doon sa baba, you scroll down a bit from there. If you hit them on the rear armor, how many is that? One,
Here.
two, three, four, five, six.
Yeah,
Just 10 pips. Center rear armor is 10 pips. So
Ah,
if you get and there are these strategies where you run these really little annoying mechs whose specialization is getting behind you and like eating through your rear armor.
hmm
So it really feels like I don't think I get an experience like this in any other of the war games we have,
and
where you
actually,
Oh.
have
since
such a granular. Go ahead, Pat.
yeah,
Sorry.
and since if you're losing, say for example, your right arm, you've lost a lot of armor in your right arm. You can position yourself so that there's actually less chance for your right
walang
arm to
target.
get hit. Yeah,
Walang target.
so your two hits are different depending on your orientation against your opponent.
Nice.
So there's that tactic as well.
Actually, while we're on BattleTech, I do believe Keith and Alvin were playing this afternoon. No,
The way
Yes,
the,
we
the
were
way
there.
you keep the way you keep mentioning Keith and Alvin makes it sound like they play everything.
but that's the store philosophy. We'll play everything, so of course
I
they
will
come
neither
out.
confirm nor deny that statement.
Don't
I know
expose us, Louis.
it's a
Don't
working.
Huli.
expose us.
I might have been. I might have been thinking about somebody else. For sure, Simon was there playing BattleTech, but I don't know if Keith and Alvin were there. But you can tell the guys what you guys like about BattleTech,
Yeah.
or
Oh,
don't you?
chat. Also, I guess we should probably mention because chat's been mentioning it as well. Part of what makes BattleTech also a big deal, there's a ton of video games.
Yeah,
The
Oh,
MechWarrior
yeah.
line, yeah.
it's
So,
special market. Yeah.
yeah. Not that Catalyst Game Labs makes money out of it. It's a weird licensing thing, and you don't want me to get into the legalities of all that. But yes, there are a lot of um,
Oh, Alvin,
venues,
Keith,
avenues for BattleTech.
but ba kayo nagba-BattleTech? What got you started on BattleTech?
Right, Keith, go ahead.
Man, you owe me for this. I think it was Gino who first told us about BattleTech. Yeah,
Oh,
Yes,
Gino
I
okay,
was
am.
the
okay.
one. Gino was the one telling
Oh.
us about BattleTech, and he told us to try it out. He was gonna try it out. He was talking to us. It was mechs and beating each other up. It's like, okay, let's try it. So we tried it out. And I like the. At first, it was a bit. When I first tried it, I didn't understand it, how it worked. The
Oh.
Gator thing badge, the Gator, and all that. I didn't
Yeah.
understand any of that. The guys who were teaching me, they were just telling me what to do, and I was like, oh. I did that. Okay, cool. But then I got into the games. I enjoyed it more when I got more into the games, and it was more simple than I thought it was.
Mm.
I do prefer CBT more than Alpha Strike. CBT is more where all the fun is. You just roll double sixes. Like our well, exposing myself here, but like our game earlier, we the guy rolled three. The guy rolled three double sixes and shot our heads off.
Heads
Yeah,
off.
headshot.
So like so much random stuff could happen. Like your pilot could just get unconscious. You just knock down. You
You
Yes.
can
fall
Mm.
acid.
stumble and
Yeah, you
hit
can
your head and,
stumble.
and
Yeah,
die.
yeah.
Yes.
Alvin blew himself up because he just fired
Yes.
everything.
So so marami siyang styles of gameplay, like
Yeah, yeah,
competitive,
yeah.
competitive, casual.
Yeah, BattleTech has a very regular tournament circuit. I'd say there's at least one every month, and then sometimes even two. Sinok does host BattleTech tournaments, and so you can play competitive and you can play casual. Although I've seen people play casual in a tournament because it's so regular. Some people will bring a meme list to a tournament just to be for I'm
Because
not gonna
it's
say it.
fun.
Ships
Because
and
it's fun.
skills. Yeah, it's fun. Si
Okay.
Alvin
It
Um,
nakakasa
also
ng
has like brief.
Alvin,
So ano yung
okay,
Uh,
sige, go ahead. May question naman. You're saved by the question.
yeah.
Josh, you're asking?
yeah, yeah. So ako knowing nothing about the game, may mga factions ba? Like or is it all
Yes,
just generic
Yes.
ano?
there
The
are
mercy.
factions.
Their factions.
That
Okay,
is a
So like
quick
question.
run
There
through.
are what? Sorry, again.
Bad yan, si Bad yan, si Bad yan.
yes.
Well, okay, we'll do a quick run
Sige,
through.
sige.
But the factions change depending on the eras. I mean, there's some that stay constant, but because the fluff, the world building is so huge, so things change a lot. So you have the great houses, which are essentially, um, if you think about it, space China, space Japan, space UK, space Germany. You have a whole bunch of pirates. You have mercenaries. You have the clans, who are essentially by genetically engineered warriors that have returned to claim humanity's homeworlds because they feel that it's their destiny to do so. Those clans come. Uh, and there's like, oh no, maybe like eight, nine, 10 different clans. There are so many factions. If you're looking for a specific flavor, there is something out there that will probably float your boat. I believe there's even space dominate Jesus. I
No
think.
way.
I think. But yeah, pretty much.
Hearsay,
There's
hearsay, Babad. Hindi ka sure.
I don't read that much of that law.
But the era doesn't change the rules. Like doesn't matter the era, same rules pa rin.
Ah
Same
no.
games.
So
No
it's
no
kind
no
of
no
crazy.
no.
Think about it like World War
Because
II with your
okay,
theater selector. Na
Mm.
in this space of year, it was this kind of mech that's in production. And I think a really unique thing about BattleTech is each mech. So if you buy the one in the starter, see a game of armored combat, you get 8 mechs, right? But each mech, for classic at least, for classic BattleTech, each mech has so many variants. Like it would
yes.
like say if you think about the Sherman tank in Bolt Action, where you have the Sherman
Mm.
Firefly, which is anti-tank, and then you have the Sherman that's anti-infantry. In BattleTech, it's much worse because my favorite mech, the Wolverine, mostly because it's named after my favorite Marvel character, um, has more variants than I can even remember. Like I feel like there's more than 10, and that's the same for every mech. But each variant, if you're playing to a specific era, which BattleTech players love to do, let's
Mm.
say it's Clan Invasion era, this only these specific Wolverines were in production. And then if you really want to play a faction, although I haven't seen people lean very heavily into factions, you really want to play a faction, then maybe they did field Wolverines, maybe they didn't field Wolverines, or they had this specific model. And they're very crazy about it. They have like a tracker. There's a website where everything is, which is like this is
Master
the
unit list.
eras. Master Unit List, the name of the website. You can have a look at it. But
That's
you
such
don't have
an
to.
that's
If you
such an
want to,
idea.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
super cool.
that's such a neat idea that the like different eras come with specific rule sets or
Yep,
specific
yep,
you know
yeah,
makeups for each army. That's so
yeah.
cool.
So, but
Yeah,
you still have your general use, like your catapult mech. That's still generally gonna be a mid to long range model because of just the way it looks, and it's not never gonna. The catapult's never gonna be. Bad, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I imagine the catapult will never be a melee powerhouse. But the different variants feel different enough. Na you can playing them session to session does feel like a unique experience.
catapult.
Catapult? Am I getting the name wrong?
No no no.
The
Now I'm just
Yeah.
showing a catapult,
Fair enough.
which you will see does not have any real arms, so it's not gonna do any melee.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but
so
that
there.
has several variants, like
Oops, fell.
Oh, it
several
fell off.
being.
It fell off. It was just pinned on. That's okay. Carry on.
All right.
Nice.
So again, much like both action, you guys have regular game days for these, or like whenever people bring it, people will play. No,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
May demo.
uh,
Sa 26, may demo ang Battletech. The
ayun,
Battletech boys wanted to add new
ayun
blood to
pala,
their
May
group. So
26.
May 26. Meron.
Ayun, okay. That's what I was going to ask. If you have a demo day for this. Tapos, you mentioned na may tournament circuit, no?
Yeah,
May ano din ba? Like here locally? May tournament scene din ba?
yeah. So the Philippine-wide chat for BattleTech, the Facebook group is, and I don't control. I'm not an admin there. It's called BattleTech of the Philippine
Mm.
Islands. That's the Facebook group.
Mm.
So they'll probably let you in if you want to join there. And then there's a chat
PTI.
called Mga Mech Warrior, which is where the other tournament group announces, and then when we announce, it's on our page and in the TDF BattleTech Facebook group chat. And
I
like I said, almost every month may BattleTech tournament.
actually
Ah.
I'd like to point out that a lot of the uh these tournaments, if they're not hosted by Louis and Dragon Forge, a lot of them are very much player driven.
Yep.
It's
That's
like,
what's great about it.
for example, Nook
Ah,
isn't really a retailer for BattleTech. It's just
Mm.
that a bunch of people in the community hang out there, so the people
Doon
in
ang
in the
venue.
community use that as a venue, and
Mhm.
they also use Dragon Forge as a venue, and we use other places as a venue. So yeah, pretty much.
okay.
It's a very community driven meta.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there a
Good.
meta badge? Is there a meta? I don't. I don't
I
tournament with you guys often enough to say there's a like a meta.
um I don't think there's really a meta per se. I mean, that's the thing with BattleTech. A lot of the mechs are streamlined, and they're
Mm.
equivalent. I mean, the point system in BattleTech makes it easy to balance everything. I mean, it's actually a very fair way of balancing your units. So I don't think there's really a meta for it.
Mm.
I mean, you run what you like, you run what's cool, pretty much.
All right.
Mm. Okay. So, okay, one last question before we move on to I don't know, before we move on to the next game. And I don't know how to phrase this question because while I was doing my research on BattleTech, I came across this thing that parang the owners have changed hands or there are different owners of this game. Tama ba?
Wala
Or
ko alam
different
dyan. Wala ko alam dyan sa drama
Okay.
na yan.
Yes, there is drama there. How much of it do you want to learn tonight? How
I,
much
I,
time
I
do you have?
Josh, can we forgo this discussion? Suffice to say, ang mayari ngayon si Catalyst Game Labs, and they have been pushing their game. They've done several Kickstarters over the last 2 years, which we also tried to pre-order with,
uh-huh.
to release new mechs, and it's generally new mechs. So they don't add new rules so much.
Yeah, it's
Maybe.
like new mix.
Uh,
Okay. All right. Okay, I think
what
that's
what
all I
was the
needed to
crux?
know.
What was the crux? Okay, yeah. I
That's
don't
all
know,
I
and I
need to
don't think
know.
it's valuable to
Yeah.
the. But there was a small drama. Badge earlier in the career of BattleTech, parang may kamukha,
Nah,
parang there
it's
was
the
a
main drama. It's the main
copyright
drama.
claim kasi kamukha niya yung mechs ng ibang
It's more okay. I'll make
cartoon.
it really, really quick.
Mm.
So the original owners of BattleTech, PASA, um, licensed some mech designs from Japanese animation companies, namely designs
Mm.
from things like Macross, Dogram,
Oh.
and some other things. So when
Ah.
they started making it in the US, this other organization said they had the license for it for distribution in North America. So that's when all the lawsuits started, and some things disappeared. They retooled them. Now they're back, and then weird lawsuits and so on. Suffice it to say, I mean, there are YouTube videos that go in depth into this for like hours. So if you're
Mm.
interested in that, but suffice it to
Okay.
say that we are in a good place right now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's what matters now. Okay. I
Yes,
just
the
wanted to
plastic
bring it
will
up
flow.
to say like that's what I just
It's
read.
it,
Okay.
but it's interesting drama. You will get hooked if you start watching YouTube videos on it.
Okay. Okay.
Actually, before we, I also because I grew up playing Mech Warrior and all these things. Because you can customize my mech in the game.
Yes.
Is also reflected on the miniatures, and if so, how do I do that if it's in one piece? So
Okay,
you just
here's the thing. BattleTech, bearing that you can use whatever proxies, tokens, or whatnot, it's not a WYSIWYG game.
okay.
That said, if you
Mm.
want to customize and kit bash, nothing's stopping you. There are individuals who cut up their mix, put magnets in them so they can have different loadouts if they so want. There
Ah.
are people who just
Badge is
straight up
talking
kit
about himself.
bash. No,
So
I don't do magnets. I'm
they
not the
don't
magnet
really
guy.
like build
I'm
a
the pinning guy.
custom.
I pin things. I don't magnetize things.
Gosh. Okay, I see. I see. Okay.
But yeah, it's
So
up to you. Unfortunately, because and it's the mechs are really cheap, so I really wouldn't demand too much of them, right? It's like 1644, and that's enough
Mm.
for most battles.
for most
Um,
battles, yeah.
it's like there's a trade off, which is like you don't have extra bits, you can't change the loadout of the mech stock. Uh,
Mm.
but it's nothing a halfway decent hobbyist
Yeah.
could could not get
Couldn't
over
do.
if they
Yeah.
were
Can
yeah
work.
if they were invested in customizing their
Like
mechs,
for
right?
example, what we're looking right now, the Orion is pinned in several different sections. After I cut it up, I cut up the arms, the legs, probably
Oh.
half the torso.
Oh yeah, he repost. Did you repost that batch?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love I love
A,
how ano, I love
a bit.
how retro everything. I,
Okay.
I
Let me
love how retro everything looks.
Yeah, the design mentality is really stayed the way it has been. Well, not
uh,
perfectly.
can we go back to that picture? Because I just want to point
Yes.
out the one on the leftmost is the modern design. That's the modern Orion.
Oh,
Um,
Mm.
that's the one you get from Catalyst Game Labs. The second one is from a set that I had in the 90s. That's the only piece remaining. I've lost them through multiple moves. That's the last one. That dates back
Oh,
from 1994,
nice different.
and that's plastic.
that
Um,
wait, hold on. 1994?
yeah, something like that. I mean, it was published
That
in 1994, but I got it around maybe 97, 98.
because that's when I was born.
Also, congratulations, this mech is the same age as you. So the set was published in 94. I probably got it 97, 98. And then
Grabe.
the mech on the rightmost is actually a metal miniature. And that's still in production, but the sculpt dates back from the 90s as well.
Oh. Yeah. Kaya nga nung ano
So,
eh,
but
when
they're
I
all the
saw
same
the
mech. Those three things are all the same mech.
ah when I saw the sheet that was on the Google Drive, when I saw the sheet that you shared, and I saw that mech in the center, I'm like, that is such an 80s 90s design.
Hmm.
Like I'm like just looking at the one on screen right now, I'm getting flashbacks to like 80s era Kunio Okiwara Gundam designs. Yung
Hmm.
ano, with the panels, with the just the staticness, the blockiness of it. Okay, it's I know it's harkening back for me at least. It's harkening back to that era. Again, does it
Yeah.
really well.
Oh, this one is the TDF Shop Army.
Hi, si Alvin nagpaint niyan.
Ooh.
The idea was they walk out of the sunset, so that's like so that you can't see that they're in camo, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And that's just I think that's just pretty much contrast. Uh,
Mm. All
Oh,
right.
this one's cool.
Oh, this one was from Bacon. We saw you guys there, and
Oh,
Yeah.
thing
this
though.
was when we were having our Solaris tournament, which is essentially think of it as Mech WWE.
Okay, it's
So
not fun when you guys are playing. And
yeah,
you guys,
Ang lakas eh.
oh,
Oh, the
oh,
terrain
I love the
too.
buildings.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of terrain.
that terrain is courtesy of
So
one of
uh,
our community
so
members
you can
called Jin.
I'm guessing so yeah, cover
Cover
yep.
is a
so
thing,
Cover
definitely
yes.
like
matters. Cover
buildings
matters.
cover
Yep.
Can you like destroy terrain or can you throw terrain?
No,
There
no.
are rules for destroying terrain. You
Yeah.
can't really throw terrain, but there are rules
Oh.
for you to pick up a tree and swing it around, or a
Damn.
lamppost, or a mech leg.
Oh.
So these are armies from our community from uh I forget which TDF event it was. I believe this was from a TDF event. Yes.
Oh. There's also
Oh,
maps, huh? So these maps are like you can buy it here locally, or do you have to
They
like
come with the starter.
They're
really?
paper. They're paper.
Ah, the
oh,
Yeah, the
that's
paper.
paper
even better.
maps. Paper maps come with the starter. You can get Louis to order you some of the
The
neoprene
neoprene
mat,
stuff.
but the paper holds up really, really well.
And we have somebody who prints them.
Damn. Now,
Oh,
now
this
I
is
want to try
another
it.
one
Really?
from our community members. I just really love his paint scheme. Shout out Moki.
Yeah, Moki won our best painted in the last word.
Yeah, this is. I think he fielded this in the last tournament, but this is from a different time.
Mm.
Yes,
This
I
is
love my
cute.
tricycle. I love my little
That's so
motorcycles.
cute.
What the heck, dude? That's so
He's like
cute,
It's
really
so
tiny.
weird. It's
dude.
really
So
the
Does
that's
he
the
have
thing.
building for
what?
scale. Damn.
Does it
The
do
thing
anything?
is, with BattleTech, you don't just get stumpy robots. You get vehicles, you get helicopters, you get infantry,
There's
you get.
there's dudes in power suits.
There's dudes in power suits. There's like
There's one
aerospace
unit for dudes in
fighters.
power suits.
You can have transport dropships that carry your mech into the battlefield, although that's kind of broken if you do that. But you know, fun's
Oh, we
fun.
better move to to time check 9:17. We have two more games to
Okay, again.
carry.
You have two more games, I guess, again. All right, well, thank you so much for that. No? Let's move on to our next game. And I think this game I have a bit more experience on because I played it a couple of years ago prior to the pandemic. Let's move on to Malifaux, right? Malifaux, by Weird Games, yeah? And now,
Yes, sir.
sige. So my experience with Malifaux is very brief. I only played it for a short while. I played the Arcanists. Specifically, I played Children of December, so si Rasputina and all that. Now, right now, I know that it's currently in its third edition. It's in 3E now, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of gameplay, ano yung difference? May big changes ba from third edition to second edition? And yun nga, before that, how is the gameplay? Really quickly.
All right. So unfortunately, I don't think any of us here can answer your change from two to three because we're all third edition players.
Okay.
But
Okay.
how does the game play? I think the biggest thing you can say about Malifaux is it's not a dice game. Where every game we've
Mhm.
discussed so far uses your dice for your randomization. Malifaux uses a deck of cards, as is appropriate for a. Somebody summed it up for me. I forget who it is. I think it's Kesh, one of the Fort regulars. He said, "What's Malifaux does? The Wild Wild West tried to take over Hell, and it went about as well as you think it did. So,
Mhm.
and appropriately for a Wild Wild West team game, you're using playing cards because it's
Mhm.
poker, right? Wild Wild West. So that's the big difference. You need zero dice to play Malifaux, which is for me one of the biggest appeals because if you've played a lot of miniature games, you know it's almost like dice is bread and butter, and it's such a refreshing thing to use cards. And the second
Oo.
bit is as somebody who used to play a lot of card games, my card counting skills do come into play. You know
Mm.
if your opponent's deck is cold, and you know if your deck is hot, so you know when to push the tempo, and that's not something you see in any other game where there's this
Mm.
external thing you're counting on until your deck has warmed up and it's ready to unload its highest cards on your opponent. So you're gonna sandbag first. You're gonna do the actions that aren't so
Mm.
valuable to you or that can afford to fail, while you're
Uh,
not sure where your deck is, and then you can angle into a hotter, more pointed assault when you know your decks should be running hot because
Oo.
probability is still probability, right? You can still pull a
Oo.
bunch of twos and threes even when your deck should be hot already. So yeah, That's one of the best
So
parts. To
ayun,
say nothing about the thematic ground that it covers that none of the other games we've talked about covers. If you notice, bolt action being World War II, and then you have BattleTech, which is all mech, generally mechs and vehicles, and the scale being
oo.
so scaled up. And now it's Malifaux, which is Wild Wild West, Hell, and a bunch of other mythologies because there's a bit of Asian mythology in it too.
Oo.
And the
Ano nga,
scale being bigger.
the reason ako personally, the reason why it appealed to me so much when I got into it years ago was that it's Victorian England. There are people from Victorian era, like tawag doon, mental houses that you can play as, and
Yes,
then
yes.
like tapos
Wild
yung
Wild West.
the
Yeah.
Neverborn faction have this nanny carrying a baby tram that has a
Oh
face
yeah.
on it.
Right? Can somebody look up the Papa Loco? Sorry, the Perdita gang, and then or should I just upload it to the drive? Do you know the name
Um,
of that master, Josh?
Perdita. I know who she looks like.
No, sige, no, I think I have it here. Uh,
Is that the one with the giant coffins?
no, this is the one with the grandmother in a wheelchair,
There we go. Now I
wielding a
remember. Yeah.
shotgun. So yeah, it's just like just to illustrate the diversity of right of concepts and miniatures you can get through experiencing Malifaux.
Ayun, I
It's one
found
of
it.
its selling
I
points.
found it. Upload ko sa ano? Upload ko sa drive.
And then the one you're talking about, right? The Victorian stuff. So it's very very diverse. I myself I say that, and then I'm kind of vanilla. I ended up with the Asian samurais
Ah,
and ninjas. Samurais and ninjas.
wala.
But
I picked ano talaga. Even back then, even back then, I picked the Russians. The Russians look cool.
yeah.
Ayun, I uploaded it in the Kaizen. Could you open it dito sa ano?
Keith, meron ka ba nito,
Sa Malibu?
Perdita? Ano yung masters mo?
I have
There's quite a
morning.
number. So Morning
Kaizen.
is a poison guy, right?
Yeah, I don't think I have Perdita.
Hello, am I
Morning.
back?
Yeah, back
Ayun.
finally.
Kaizen, could you open the dito sa Google Drive? I posted a
Sorry.
photo called Ayun, I posted a photo called Perdita. Yun, ayan. Look at
Sorry,
her.
I got last confusion. Wow.
That's yours, Josh.
No. Just from the net.
On the far right there, that's a grandma in
A
a
wheelchair.
wheelchair with a
This
shotgun. Yeah, and then the one in white beside the lady in the center, pointing a gun to his own head. That's Papa Loco. He's in a straight jacket because he's insane. And this is just one
Oh,
of the
God, so
crews.
cool.
It's just one of the crews, and it covers so much ground. But the plastic's great too. Their sculpts are great. My only gripe with Malifaux plastic is that they're kind of crazy in that sometimes they put too many pieces in things. Like infamously, there's a I think 8-piece Chihuahua, and it's even smaller than that guy there on the left.
What?
Like
But
the hands
That,
are so spindly to build. Like I've seen kits, they look so difficult to build.
yeah, they're a bit technical, very very advanced builders kind of stuff. But I wanna pull in Keith and Alvin again, because so that these guys, they're the ones who started Malifaux the store. So Keith, Alvin, ba't ba tayo napunta dito? How did we get here?
It's like you keep saying, Louis, even Alvin's the one who spends so much money.
No.
You're
I have
exposing
no
us
way.
here.
I have no way of
This is
defending you.
This is like an exposure, man.
You're in good company. I don't think anybody at this podcast spends less than you, in my opinion.
we'll see about that.
Oh god.
I think it was Alvin who talked about playing Malifaux.
Oh, really?
And as usual, I was just like, okay, let's try it out. So we just made some orders.
Yeah, that's how it went.
Yeah,
Oh
because he was
god.
like
Why do you
he
why
talked.
Yeah, yeah. What was it, Alvin? Why do you what about Malifaux drew your eye?
I just saw the models and I was like, they look pretty cool. They're like
The
they have
models are
cards and
cool.
stuff.
Story
They're
of
Yeah,
our
very,
freaking lives,
very
right? I just saw the
that was
models and I thought they were pretty cool.
that was
Yeah.
basically it. Then we just bought,
Oh
and then it's
god.
like, oh, you use cards. Okay, cool. And then we played like a first jank game where we didn't know what to do.
But
Tsaka,
the
Oh,
here Hobbs has a big
it
resale
really, it's such.
Hobbs, no?
Yep.
Sorry,
Oh,
what,
sorry.
Louis?
I feel like I didn't cover this because it uses cards. You can cheat, quote unquote, right? You can
yes.
change a result because you have a hand of cards that if you don't generally when you do a test, like you both draw from your decks, right? And
Mhm.
then if you are at a disadvantage, maybe you draw more and pick the lower. If you're at an advantage, maybe you draw more and pick the higher. But the third aspect is you have a hand of cards. So you can say, all right, I don't like the card I drew. I will play a card from my hand and change fate. I think that's what they call it even in the
Yes.
game. So that's a very unique tactic. They keep showing us a model. I
Yes.
myself have I only have new in box, but keep showing us a nice model. Maybe you can zoom in. That's one of his masters,
Yes.
Lucas McCabe,
It's
if
like
I'm not mistaken. Guy
Mm.
see, that's Indiana Jones, right, Keith? Essentially,
He's like a relic hunter, and
yeah,
then
relic
the
hunter.
I meme this guy because the master is actually the horse. Because when he dismounts, he gets becomes
what? Am I
Yeah,
yeah,
hearing
yeah,
it right?
because he has a separate model where he dismounts and he
dismounted.
loses
Yeah,
most of
yeah.
his
Mm.
skills. So I
Uh-huh,
meme
yeah.
him that the horse is the master because he
The horse has
gains more
most of the
skills.
powers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
because the moment he's dismounted, he's kind of useless.
Yeah, you get a dog too. Oh man, it's
Yeah,
broken.
and
Okay, so, uh, wait, am I connected?
Yeah, you are.
you're up.
You're up.
Yeah.
Oh, a dog.
Man,
Oh,
Malibu
so
also has the
cute.
most dogs, which is like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
automatic
Yo, this is the zombie
hashtag
chihuahua, like
value.
for scale.
What the fuck?
Zombie
8-piece
Chihuahua.
zombie chihuahua.
So that's made out of 8 pieces.
That is so what? Ganyan
Yeah, it's
kaliit?
ridiculous. It's
That's
ridiculous.
insane,
Some
man. No
pang
way.
advanced,
That is so
very
so. Is
advanced.
it? I have a is it like around 10 mil or 15 mil? Ang liit niya eh.
What's that? A
I think this is
centimeter and a half?
20.
Not even.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if your eyes are not great, this is
No, sorry.
impossible.
Unfortunately,
Oh, it's not.
contact your friendly neighborhood taga-assemble if di na kaya.
Yeah.
I actually, yan nga rin yung naging problem ko with ano with some Malifaux figures. It's so it's crazy spindly. I used to have ice dancers back then for my Arcanist. Grabe, at one point in time, my ice dancer had
Carlo
two
pala
missing
dito.
fingers.
Carlo.
Oh,
Mikey.
Yeah, as in ganito lang siya. Like before, ganun siya, all five hands. But
Wala na
by the
akong
time
bitin na.
ganun na lang siya.
so what you
Wait a
do
minute.
Rock and roll.
if you
Rock
lose
and
the
Because it
roll.
was so
Yeah,
because the fingers were so thin.
yeah.
And
It's
what sucks
strange.
is that and what
It's
sucks
strange.
is that some of the models, the mold line is here. And
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
how
So
are you
yeah,
supposed to cut that?
when I've seen models like that, so that's why I say Malifaux. If you had again GW is number 10, right? Hiding the
Yeah.
mold lines, Tibay, they know how to weight the models. Malifaux's like an 8 because of its choices in terms of pieces per model and where to put the mold lines. The plastic's always great quality. The detail on the faces is there, but one hard to assemble. Two, sometimes you don't feel like you should be playing with the model, with how spindly some of the bits are. So there is that. But the plastic's great for painting.
Mm.
It does the job right. It's
and it's
perfect for.
fast. Right? Gameplay is fast, like skirmish time, no?
Oh yeah, model count. You buy a starter. I think you're at 30 points. So that's 50 is the max. So
Mm.
you can buy your master. It will come with a few models, and you can probably play a 30-point game out of the box. And it's great because they have very flexible squad building because it is skirmish, so there's really no squads. like each model can be played up to X times. Like of course characters one of each, and then your infantry can be one or two, your brute or three even. You have brutes that are one each, or you know, and these are just classifications I use in my head, right? They aren't official names. It's just like, for example, if you have, for me, my master is Misaki Katanaka. She's a yakuza. She's the yakuza head. She's the oyabun of the yakuza.
Oh
That's
my god, that
basically
sounds so cool, man. I
right
want to
in
play this game.
Malifaux, and she has ninjas, so you can field one, two, or three ninjas. Very flexible, and the lore is super great. I bought a rule book, and most of it was lore, and only like the half of it was not even all the rules because update your rules, and all the rules are free on the app, and you can play matches on the app. So it probably has the best app in terms of the games I play because you can connect to each other's phones
Hmm.
and you can see the HP, you
Hmm.
can see any
Ah,
tokens you put on the opponents, you
okay.
can
Yeah, it has
see.
match
For
tracking.
tracking.
Yeah, it's super
Yeah.
great. The best match tracking
So
probably.
you just bring your phone, your deck of cards, and your miniatures.
Yeah, tablet better, but yeah, phone will do.
Harap, dude.
Hmm. Hmm.
And thematic
Okay,
ground
so
talaga. I feel like that's the biggest selling point. Oh, go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
okay, so back to, let's go back to the gameplay real quick. No, we use cards, right? Care to explain then how we deal damage and how the triggers work?
Keith, you wanna take this one, or Alvin?
Yeah,
All right, I will attempt to answer the question. I have like 4 months Malifaux experience. Let's go. Yeah. In Malifaux, the main like way to deal damage is like to contest the opponent is through something called a duel. So a duel is it's like your card flip against the static number or the opponent's card flip. So basically, if you roll to hit, you flip a card, and you add your modifier against the opponent's card flip, add it to their modifier. If you
Defense.
exceed their number, the attack goes through, and then you flip another card to see how strong the effects of the attack will be. And then before you flip for the damage with the second flip, in the first like round of flips, you pick like one suit of the card that you used to hit or you cheated, and you pick one of the effects on the datasheet or data card, and you apply the effect, the corresponding suit.
Let
For
me see if I
example,
can guess how.
like for example, I want to attack Keith's like Chihuahua. I flip to attack. I flip a Jack. My modifier is +5. I have like a 15. He fails his defense flip, so my attack goes through. I flip another card to see what damage I deal. It's either weak, normal, or severe. If I pips or 2 dots on the card, that's a value of like 6 to 10. It's a normal attack. I deal the damage in the middle table.
Here we go.
If my Jack is like a hearts or a ram, I deal the critical hit effect.
Nope.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's not
Basically, yeah.
working. Let me
Basically,
see
you
if I
just
can find a
flip two
picture.
cards. You measure the result and you see if the result is either strong, weak, or normal. Basically, that's how it works.
Here we go. I will upload the file so that you can see, and then I see if I have a card then.
So Malifaux has custom suites, but there's a conversion for that. So what
Yes.
Alvin's saying, for example, this card has 3 pips, so that's a severe
Yes.
damage when you flip
Yes.
it.
So you deal the most damage if you flip that card for
Yeah.
damage.
So this is a 1. Yeah. So these are like
Ayan,
the custom
yan, yan.
suites. You have a crow, mask, but there's conversions for this. You can just buy a normal deck,
Yeah.
and then the black joker is like the worst you can get.
Yes. If you flip that, yeah,
You
it's
you
bad.
just you can't do anything. The red joker is the best. It can
Yes.
be any suite and gives like you insta win basically
I
if
have
you
a
flip that.
sample card uploaded to the Malifaux drive, so you can see if you can find it. But in essence, nasa card flip, and then
Yes.
the card can either mean severe. So can you go to that there, Vicento, on the right, the card on the right side. There you go.
Hmm.
So if you'll notice sa taas, it says Vicento target suffers 2, 4, or 5 damage. So depending on the card flip, you could get more damage, right? And then
Yes.
It has a range of 2, and then your stat is 7. So you add 7 to your card
Initial
that you
flip.
draw versus the opponent's defense, which is, if you can see on the left there, there's a DF stat. Um, he adds his card flip to the DF stat, and then that will tell you whether you hit, and then the amount of damage you deal is based on a card flip as well. And on your hit, the difference matters. So it's different. It takes a bit getting used to, but in essence, it's very doable. And of course, pag sa Forge ka naglaro, tuturuan ka naman ng friendly neighborhood players mo. So it's really not gonna be a problem.
Sure.
Very playable game, very refreshing because it's
Yeah.
cards.
The rules in essence are very simple. The difficulty comes with each master and each unit having
Yeah.
something different that they do. That's where the complexity comes in because each master plays
Ooh.
very differently.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Each
Even each faction, they all do something really different. It's like
Yeah.
you have to learn how everything works talaga if you want to like get
Yeah.
good with the game.
I feel like
There's a
it's
master for every play style. I
Yep.
think.
Yeah.
There's control masters, there's offense masters, there's masters who only play objective, there's masters who just murder you.
There's
Um,
masters that troll.
yeah,
There's
there's
masters that can
masters.
So most of the
Gugulo
abilities
lang.
are on the
Yeah.
master, and you can mix
the
them.
the
Parang
the
ganun.
coolest one I think is the master that can manipulate the deck, the fate deck.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
There are masters where you can like, oh, look at the top deck. If you don't like that, put in the bottom. Or you can draw first, draw hand. I think that's very strong in this deck, but it's also hard to use because there's like you can't just draw. You can like there's a drawback to it. So there's stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
The troll one,
Very, very.
there's a master that drops pianos.
What? Sino to?
I have that master.
Oh
You
my
drop
God,
a
we gotta
40
play.
millimeter. You drop a 40
Oh my
millimeter
God.
piano, and it's destructible and blocks line of sight.
That is
You can
Looney Tunes.
infinitely drop it, so you can fill the
That is
field.
some Looney Tunes
with
stuff
pianos.
right there.
So you can fill the field with pianos. I'm just
Uh,
asking to print
I can
piano.
hear it in my head.
I have a question. Like, isang deck ba is a deck of 52 cards or
It's
Yeah,
54 because there's a red joker and a black joker. The red
jokers are
joker
included.
being the best card in the deck. It'll win all the time and it'll deal maximum damage. And it's
so
plus
technically
40.
bilang yung number of cards that I can draw. Like
That's
if
what I
I
was saying.
know that he drew
Yes.
4 fours, I know that
Yes.
he'll.
Yes.
But-
Yes. But you reshuffle every round, so you won't get to a point where you know absolutely. Generally, you won't get to a point where you know
so
absolutely everything. The probabilities will still say, hey, nagpapa-shoutout si Gizmo, sub Berlin. But I was saying, it will never be, exactly what's in the deck. But you can, if you have a capacity for counting cards, that's what I was saying at the start, right? I have been counting cards for a long time because we used to play Pusoidos and all that poker at our house. So when we shifted to Malifaux, I was like, oh, this is second nature to me. I know if my deck's hot or if my opponent's deck is cold. So you can play to whether or not it's your moment. Or you can like play safe. Like, is this the time where I risk doing some crazy stuff? And if you know your deck's hot, you're definitely gonna do it. If you know your deck's somewhat cold, that may change your mind as to whether or not it's your time.
nice, gets. Okay,
I think
But-
also one of the things
So I
you
like
get
that.
go ahead.
there's like when you select a mission, there are hidden schemes.
Hidden
basically.
information, yeah.
Yeah.
You can
Um,
there are 5 random schemes. You
yeah,
pick
it's
2
5
of them
random. You'll pick 2 of them, and you will not tell your opponent what they are
Until you
until you
score the
actually
first one.
score
Yeah.
them, or until you
The first
reveal it,
half.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You score the first half, but it's super interesting because it then becomes hidden in public information, and your opponent knows exactly how you can score the second
Yeah.
point of each scheme. So it's super. There's that you're playing with hidden when to reveal your schemes, and when to and then you can start preventing your opponent from getting their scheme done. And that's by the way, that's also managed by the app they have,
The app, yeah, the
which
app.
we love. Fuck yeah. So super good, right? Self-managed.
I worship the app.
Yeah, so good. Like I wish every war game we played had something similar because you can even see your opponent's HP. Like you don't have to
HP.
ask ilan pa HP nito. If you're linked on the app and they host it, it's hosted. The data is hosted. Also pogi nga mga Louis sa mundo. Thank you. I really appreciate love Berlin. But I was saying nawala tuloy yung train of thought ko. No? Yeah, it's all on the app and it's super good. We wish all our
Yeah,
war games.
it tracks like all your status conditions, all this, all that.
Yep.
So you just like click,
But
click,
the
click, and it's
score.
fast.
But the
Yeah,
score.
even the
You can
score,
track
it's all
everything.
there. It's free.
Sobrang galing. And it's free.
It's free.
Let's not forget, it's free. All you have to do
It's
is
free.
download the app. In fact, you can
Yeah.
start list building this
You could,
evening.
yeah,
You can
yeah,
look at
yeah.
all the masters and decide like, okay, what play style do I want to try or which looks cool to me because the pictures are there too. And then when you've decided, you can just message me and alam niyo naman, ganun lang yan, di ba?
Well,
So
you know,
tama
you
ba sa akin, hindi ko? It's factions, and per factions
There's
there are
masters.
masters,
there's
and then
masters.
Yeah.
there are units underneath. So I can't
Yeah.
and match those things.
Sorry. May
I'm with
mga units na tinatawag na versatile. They'll play
Yeah.
with any master in that faction. And then there are units with specific keywords. Sometimes units will have two keywords. That's less common. But generally, a unit will be either versatile or have one keyword. And then they can play with the specific keyword.
so that makes
Very
build.
rarely then a master will have two keywords, but generally they have one keyword lang.
Okay, so parang if you know kalaban mo yung master na to, you can tell what type of units they'll bring into the game.
This
Parang,
is my one gripe with tournament gaming for Malifaux. No?
Yeah.
You tell your opponent what faction you're playing, and then you list build.
Then you
That
list
is
build
the
on the spot.
official rule. The
On the
official
spot.
rule is you tell your opponent what your faction is, not your master, your faction
Faction.
of the 8 factions, and then that's when you go list building. So if you have every model in a faction, you
Yeah.
telling them your faction means nothing. So it's kind of pay to win in that way kasi but I don't know anybody with every model in the same faction. Though I'm sure may players tayo sa community na ganyan.
I,
But anyway,
I'll
And the-
go off on a leg. I'll
Yeah.
go off.
like
Sorry,
us.
I'll go off on a leg. I'll go off on a leg and say I'm pretty sure Jay has all the factions.
yeah. You've seen Jay. He's been posting about Malifaux a lot recently.
playing.
Yeah.
It's his flavor of the month, and thank you so much, Jay, for pushing Malifaux. But in most cases, you see what master the opponent brought naman. And since this is not something we've ever done a tournament for, it's a very casual game for us. We really just want to try different masters and models, and then so it hasn't come into play. This idea na you can pay to win and just say my faction is this, but you have all the masters and brought all the models. That's the other crazy thing, right? You'd have to bring all the models for that faction to actually use that strategy, which is really not feasible, in my
It's
opinion.
like 100 models.
Yeah, right. So it's not. It's fine. It's a very small gripe, really.
I think Louis also forgot to mention the best thing about Malifaux is like each master has like a different version. How
Right.
Carlo
May
told me, yeah, how Carlo told me was like the basic one is Naruto and you have a Shippuden version.
Ayun.
Yep.
So that's what I wanted to ask about then. Because like syempre, I had the old Rasputina. And there's a new Rasputina.
That's
And
just
then
a new
there's
sculpt. The rules are the same.
It's just a scope, yeah, you can still play it.
So
okay.
he's just collecting. If you want to collect, you can get the new sculpt. If you want an alt, yeah, that's it. But you can still play it same base size.
Hindi, pero nakita ko there's a new Rasputina, but then there's a new Rasputina that came out from the Cold Snap set.
So that's your alt sculpt. That's the one with the different rules. The one that's
Ayun.
very different. It's gonna have a sub name like mine is Misaki Katanaka, and then the alt sculpt is called Misaki Katanaka Fractured, Kama Fractured. So each master now has an alt sculpt with alt rules, and it flips the playstyle,
It's
but
different, yeah.
keeps your keyword. So this lets your single keyword models experience a different kind of playstyle, right? So you can bring the same ninjas, but be playing a very different game because your master is still your most powerful model on the table, and your strategy usually revolves around what your master does. So I think that's a very interesting way to do it. However, I will warn you ahead of time. That's how they get you to start new crews because these alternative masters come with a second alternative. There's never just your alternative master. It's always two alternative masters and then a third model, which is lahat sila merong kanang kamay, right hand guy. Each master has a called henchman. Is that what it's called? Keith?
Henchman, yeah,
Yeah,
henchman.
right, the henchman. And there's a henchman there that's shared by those two masters. So your tough decision is: am I willing to sell? Is anybody gonna buy this master without taking the henchman? Because obviously, like for you, you're gonna wanna keep the alt Rasputina, and you're gonna wanna keep the alt henchman. But
Mm.
that other guy, kung hindi mo siya crew, kukunin ba niya yon kung hindi niya naman makukuha yung henchman that works for both of them? So you're stuck with this model that will likely suck you into another crew because you know how we do. You know how we
Oh
do
God,
for this miniatures hobby.
I thought I already had it bad with MCP doing that. Now Malifaux does that too.
Oh, by the way, it's 9:45, and I do not want to skip talking about War Machine.
Ayun, right. So, thank you so much again for that, for Malifaux. Let's move on to our final game for this, for tonight, and more importantly, let's get into the, I guess, the most well known out of all of these, because I know a lot of people who
Yeah,
play this.
yeah.
Let's get into War Machine.
Woohoo!
Ayun.
Uh,
So,
what do you want to know about War Machine?
ayun. So, fourth edition na, di ba? Fourth edition? Tama ba?
Yeah, Mark 4. War Machine Mark
It is
4.
now Mark 4. Ayun. So, okay, back to basics. Gameplay. How is it? Why did they get rid of my faction?
Okay, let's get the icky bit out of the way. They got rid of factions, right? So Privateer Press had production problems towards leading up to the pandemic, distribution problems.
Mm-mm.
Even when things were kicking off here in the Philippines for War Machine right before the pandemic hit. And so when the pandemic hit, it really put them in a bind. Ano? So they shifted business models. They stopped molding and they did started doing 3D printing just last year,
Mm.
which meant and then they had an issue with their supplier in China stealing their molds and not being reliable
Oh.
anymore. So they lost access to a lot of the sculpts. So and that doesn't mean your army is playable. I keep telling the people who have Mark III stuff that come and play first before you say it, because it's actually really cool that you have closed armies, right? So everything in Mark III they gave rules for, and because they promised they'd be competitive for the foreseeable future. It's slightly better than the AOS thing where they said these models will have competitive rules to 2025. After that, wala
Yeah.
na. For War Machine, the promise is your old models, most of them, not all of them, most of them will have competitive rules for the foreseeable future. And they are just cut into specific subgroups, right? So I think that's the biggest complaint that's relevant. Na that these two models work together, they don't anymore. But if your collection was big, you'll have access to it, and it's competitive. We still see them place in tournaments, and War Machine is very competitive, and it's playable. But if you want to start War Machine, I really suggest picking up one of the Mark IV armies because one, it'll keep going, but at the same time, magbo-bookend din siya. Like at some point, they will stop producing for a certain army, and then they'll make a new army under the same faction. Um, but before we get into that, why War Machine, right? Um, as I'm the lead well, Badge played War Machine before me, I think. But War Machine is the Dark Souls of miniatures games.
Oh no. The Dark
War
Souls
It's the
comparison.
Dark Souls of miniatures games because
Really?
it's the only game where you have to get good. They're gonna kill you in the first, because there's assassination in this game. It's like chess. If they get your commander, you're done. You're dead. Doesn't matter how far your points lead is. Doesn't matter that your opponent had no points yet done or last dude niya na yun, and it was just some random guy, or it's only
So
his
parang
caster left pala. As long as you get the assassination, you win the game, and there's no other game that is as quite as high stakes in terms of if you make a mistake, you're gonna pay for it. So si Keith, ano yung sinabi mo sa akin no isang beses, Keith, about War Machine? It's like to quote Keith, he's like, it's like all the other games I play are baby games because War
yeah.
Machine is really gonna mold you into like a very tactical and war gamer. Now, even if you're a casual player, because there's assassination, you will be forced to think about it, which it could be a plus and a minus, right? Some people don't want to think that hard.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's
so yeah,
casual.
yeah. That's the no, that's the elevator pitch I have for War Machine.
How are
Build
the new models now?
So all the new models are 3D printed. I'll show you
I've
quickly.
uploaded photos if you want to show them
Yeah,
Yeah, please.
in the
usually
drive.
yun na lang
Sige,
naka-upload.
paki-flash yung paki-flash yung models.
Yeah,
Although mine are War Beast, but I did upload
yeah.
Igmictus.
No, no, that's mine. That's Eidolon Warjack. And then
This
that's
one.
my Warcaster. So that's my leader unit. If you kill him, you've won.
Wow, they look great.
The sculpts of Mark IV are really good.
Yeah.
Is
No
Zach
assembly.
audience? This is Zach's alley right here.
Yeah. I wanted Zach to be on the
Oh.
podcast, but he hadn't painted or unfortunately Zach didn't have time to paint anything Mark IV. So that's why those are the
Mm.
objectives for the game. That was our narrative campaign launch. So we have a narrative campaign going on now where there are points for actually painting stuff. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, after the pictures I have a
Grabe
bit of
yung lake, yung mga lake talaga, yung mga tawag doon, the 2D
oh,
mats, 2D terrain stuff. Yun, I will never see a Malifaux game without those.
you mean War Machine? Yeah, yeah. Kasi ano, because it used to be so competitive.
What was yeah?
The ambiguity of having to walk something up a hill was getting too many of the players. So they were like, let's make everything flat para walang wobbly model and everything's precise down to the millimeter. Thankfully, hindi na ganun yung game.
Hey, that's mine.
Yeah. That's Badge's thing on the left, the purple one. This is from the Grimkin faction, which me and Alvin play.
And that's the faction that I played.
That's
Oh!
gone. Wala
Who
na.
has ano? Ikaw, Josh?
Yeah, I played Grimkin back then.
But it's still playable. I play my Grimkin regularly at the store.
Pero you can't buy the models anymore, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, everything Mark III is hard
yeah.
to get. It's like collector's edition, but the rules are still so if you have an existing Malifaux army, you can just
War Machine.
Oh nga, John, it's a great
Yeah,
game. I
great.
feel like you should start if you haven't already. Di ba, Carlo?
Yun. Kasi I used to play Grimkin. I had the big
House?
walking house thing.
Yeah.
Si Zebana Aga.
The old
was it
witch.
the old witch?
Yeah, the
yes.
witch.
The old witch.
And-
Yeah.
Yep.
Grabe yung model na yan. It was both resin and metal.
Metal. Yep.
Yes.
I have that in box. I haven't gotten mine together, but yeah. Yep, the Grimkin are one closed faction. They're very playable. And actually, Kinopia yung cards Arcana. That's Keith's other blimp. Keith's got like an Air Force in War Machine.
Ooh. And I love how distinct the trolls are of
Again, one of the selling points for this, it sounds like a broken record, but the creative ground it covers is not in any other miniatures game you have out there.
Yeah.
And that's just the trolls, right? Keith, bakit hindi shark and ano? So that troll, that reef troll, sometimes can carry a shark and squid. Instead of yeah. So if you can focus on me, I have your sample, right? Put it in front of my face, and you can. They've upgraded the models to be magnetized. They come with a magnet.
Wow.
This
Oh,
means
that's
that
so nifty.
as opposed to having to buy you have to buy 5 different models for each. Like the large Warjack, you'd have to buy several models just to change the loadout. Now they have like changeable arms. For the trolls, it's different. It's the thing on the back, the thing in both hands, and the head. And then there's another troll that you can change the booze that they're drinking. And depending on the booze that they're drinking, it changes the abilities of the model. So this is not just cosmetic. There's actual mechanical value to changing the bits on the model. It seems more expensive up front because it's like 2,300 for a large. But because you generally will run maximum. Usually you'll run 2. Maximum na yung nakita ko na nag-run ng 5 or 6 usually spam lists. you don't really need more than a few chassis of the model. But yeah, one of the selling points. It's very flexible, and like I said, diba, it's centered around the caster. So I'm here. I'm actually painting a Warcaster. Um, the
Ayun.
big difference between the Warcasters is you can have the same Warjack controlled by different caster. It's like the masters in Malifaux. Changing the caster changes the complexion of the army, changes what you want to do with the
The play
army, and
style.
maybe changes what you want to put on the war. So yeah, your play style is based on your master, your warcaster. Um, so your loadouts are based on your warcaster. Then, really, really tactical game nga because of it. And as opposed to the other games where the culture is very casual, try stuff out kind of attitude. The people who started War Machine in this country are very competitive oriented. It's always been a very competitive game because of
Mm.
assassination. So for this, the narrative campaign is actually a breath of fresh air for us because it generally the events are very competitive. You bring two lists and then you show your opponent the two lists, and then you have to pick blind which between your two lists you're playing. And most of the players are really tight players. We played on clock. Um, we play on chess clocks when it's a major tournament. Very different experience from other war games in terms of competitive level. And feeling mo talaga gagaling ka kasi you can. It's typical for new players, and I'm gonna say this up front, like people who want to join and play War Machine. It's very typical to get your butt kicked for the first 5, 6 games or more before you score your first win. Ano? It's that kind of game. But that doesn't
Mm.
mean the people you play with aren't fun. Like sobrang nice ng community that it's fine. You will enjoy learning. May feel mo talaga na gumagaling ka maglaro. Um, and yeah, that. I could go on, but I want Keith and Badge to talk about
Sige.
being
Uh,
old.
sige. Jonathan says, Teacher Mikey. Mikey, magaling magturo ng War Machine. Shout out to my shout out to my maternal cousin, Jonathan. Hello, man.
Oh, nga pala, pinsan mo si John.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Start the puns now.
Ang dami nagpakita. Si
Alright.
Jerick, si Matt were here earlier, and then Carlo and John and Mikey and Berlin. Hi, everybody.
Hello. All right. Sige. Now you mentioned it's kind of a game that's going to get your butt kicked kung newbie ka. But again, that's where the growth comes from, diba? So what can you tell me naman about the starter sets nito? You mentioned Mark IV has starter sets, or Mark IV has starters for armies. What can you tell me about them naman?
Yeah, so the most basic entry point would be a battle box. That's a leader and two beasts or warjacks. So the idea of this universe is your leader, a warcaster or a warlock, can either control these warjacks, which are kind of like robots, or war beasts, which are monsters, because they're magic users, and that the kind of magics they can like manipulate their will through these monsters. So it's 4650 for a box of three. That's 25 points, more or less, because the loadouts are flexible, and then you can just from that point on add full starter, or you can get more jacks or whatever you like.
Would you say that Malifaux is kind of an in between of a skirmish and an army game? Because I know that there are units like
Yeah.
like
War Machine
full-on
is
unit.
it used to be a skirmish game, but it's more of a in between now, kasi it's still a low model count other compared to like 40k or AOS.
Oo.
And it really feels very skirmish because of the focus on the caster.
Ayun. Okay, let's hear from the other players of ano here.
Yeah,
Of
please.
other players of War Machine here. How would you describe your experience with the game, and like what faction do you play? I mean, wait, sorry. What factions are still in game?
I'll just quickly run through the factions. So you have America, you have the good guys, Signar, then you have the other good guys now, which are based on Russian, Sikador, and then you have the bad
That's
guys, which is
propaganda.
the that's propaganda. A Signar player has spoken. The Orgoth, which are invading, they're demon. They serve demons.
Yeah.
They're invading the continent. Then you have my faction, the Dusk. They used to be elves. Now they're mostly vampires with some living elves, which is really cool, undead elves. And then you have the Chimera. That's a new faction. They're dragon things. They essentially can sculpt flesh and steel together. So they're kind of like hybrid superior being kind of genetic modification things. And then they have what else am I missing? The trolls. Keith's faction is the trolls.
Of
They're pirates.
course.
They're the southern Creoles trolls. And then I'm missing one faction. And then
Wala,
there's a new faction announced, the undead, the Krings, Mecha undead.
ah,
Chimera,
wala
Chimera.
na yung ano. So wala na yung Everblight, wala na yung Skyra.
Oh, those are all playable. If you had models from those factions, they're playable. But some of them have
Okay.
been absorbed into new factions. Like Everblight, the Legion of Everblight has become the Chimera. So the people who were running Everblight ran away from their dragon and started to set up their own thing, and that's what the Chimera is. The
Okay.
Retribution of Syra is the terrorist group based in Ios that is now the same country as the Vampire Elves. So the lore continues, it's a continuous lore. But yeah, can we get the I'd like to hear about Badger's
Yes,
experience as
yeah.
a only Mark 3 player, and then Keith with the
Yes,
story.
please. Thank you.
Well, the thing is, if you still have, models, I'm keeping my Mark III for now because my backlog for Mark III is freaking huge. Don't want to let them go before I'm done with it. But the thing is, it's still uh playable, and the models that you know and love. They have slight changes for balance, but they're still there. That said, I wouldn't recommend using uh Mark III armies. If you got them, use them. But if you're starting out, get the new
No,
stuff.
no, no. Yeah, we can start.
Because, it's getting harder to find things. No, it's not getting harder. It is hard to find
It's
things. I
really
keep
hard already. Yeah,
I keep giving Louis my anything. So they are playable, but go with Mark IV.
yeah. Unless you find and I'll say this against my own interest. If you see a large lot on eBay or the Facebook group, sometimes it's a full collection. Maybe that's the only time you pick up a Mark III army. If you really really love those models, they're very much playable, and you have a community to play with at the store, at the Dragon Forge. That's the only reason.
Oh yeah, and also I was thinking earlier because Louis mentioned this. I don't like magnetism, magnetizing stuff, but the fact that you have that option is really good so that you can have different warjacks that do different things. Like Louis said, you get two warjacks, you can have different loadouts to them. What are the chances you're gonna field more than that? Me as an old machine player, I have 7 warjacks of the same chassis because I have to use these guys sometimes, or I use these guys
Mm,
sometimes, or I use these guys sometimes. So
mm,
there is that.
okay.
Thanks,
I
Patch.
actually I like din how going to the pieces and the magnetizing. I'm actually very hanga ako sa the way Privateer Press does their customer service. I'm not sure if this is still the case now, but back
It's
then
true.
uh, I lost I lost the arm of one of my crow assassins for Grimkin. I emailed them and they're like, "Oh yeah, sure, just send us the photo and whatnot." And then
Yeah,
like 2 weeks later, dumating.
it's there. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's still very much true today. But to help privateer press, then I told them, can the customers just go through me, so that privateer press doesn't have to carry the cost of the shipping. So you can do it
Yeah.
either way. You can email them directly through their Mispax portal. But privateer press has been really nice to our store in
mm,
particular. They give us a lot of price support and special deals because it's a bit more expensive to stock miniatures here in this country.
mm.
So to give back to them, I try to ask people to take your mispacks through me. If you bought it from me, I can handle any of the mispacks that you get. Speaking of which, Keith had a very interesting experience with the model. Keith, can you tell us about your shadow tongue?
Yeah, please.
Oh yeah. Uh, I didn't notice that it was broken until I started painting it, or there was some part missing. Like it was missing a finger and one of the crow. I didn't notice the crow had a separate wing, but I was just like, okay, it looks cool. I didn't notice it till I was painting it. I was like, oh, it was broken.
Kulang pala.
Kulang pala. So I was like, okay. Then asked Louis if he could change it or something. So we'll see. But I don't mind. It looks cool. He looks cooler because he's like an older, um,
Grizzled back in
yeah,
time.
grizzled in the brine blood. So it's like it adds to his like look. So I don't mind. It's okay if it doesn't get. But yeah,
And Keith,
All
can you
right.
talk about how you? I know we're over time, but if we can get like new players, because I Badge is like obviously old hammer, and I
Yeah,
would
of
say
course,
mid
of course.
hammer, mid machine. But Keith, how do you feel like having joined only in Mark Four?
I would
And
say
you can
like
talk
I
about the
said.
bad.
Uh, I think the one thing I like the most in Mark Four in War Machine in general is just like how competitively fun it is. Like it gets
That's the difference.
crazy when you play the game with again with in Dragon Forge. Like at the end of the day, I'm always drained, and my head hurts so much from playing this
Yeah,
game.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's the type of game where you're gonna ask your opponent, "What's your threat range?" every time. Like, "What's your threat
yeah,
range? How far do this move? How far can it stay?" Because if you place your character 1 inch, you're dead. You lost the game immediately. It's that
yep,
type of game. So
yep,
you if you body block wrong, if you do this wrong, you're just dead. So you have to think. You have to think like, okay, if I go first, right? Can you shoot me already? Can you kill me already? There's some things like that. What shenanigans he can do, right? And
yep,
each caster has like they call it the feat. So it's like a once per game ability they have. Like when they pop it, they get like a army wide buff, or some get stronger, some can cast free spells. So it differs the play style. Um, so it's definitely a very technical game. I would say it's not complicated, but it's very technical. It's like it can get really strategic, depending also who you fight against, right? But it can get really crazy sometimes. I think I've only won one game since I played War Machine since last year. But I've been grinding it. It's fun. It's like one of those addicting things where eventually when you do win, it's like, oh, I made
yeah,
it.
yeah. That's why I
It's
Hey,
say it's
like
like
wait,
the
it's like
Dark
Keith.
Souls.
Wait, do you mean that when you won against me during game day, that was
no
your
no no
one
no.
win?
I don't count
Who
that. I don't
naman?
count that. I don't count that one.
I'm counting
Because
that. That was on
no no
me.
no no.
I'm veteran, and I'm like, I made the mistake of not asking you what your feat was, and I died from it.
No, 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 that
That's
doesn't count.
this
That
is the
doesn't
game
count.
that
That
makes
doesn't
you
count.
get good.
Yep.
Yeah,
And when you find,
I've
like
had.
Keith said, when you finally win, iba yung feeling. Iba yung feeling when you finally beat one of the
Be the
vets.
boss or something.
Sorry, one of the
It's like
sharks.
it's like when you beat one of them, you're like, oh yes, all my purchases are worth it. I'm okay. I'm good. I'm
Okay
good.
na, solve na.
All
I think
right. Sige.
also
So,
I'll add one more thing. I think the
yeah,
one
sure.
thing I also liked about War Machine is the progression of buying the Mark IV stuff, because I just had to buy a starter box, another box, and then whatever I wanted next. I didn't have to like. It was like, okay, you buy this starter box, you buy this other box. The what do you call that, Louis? The one after
Expansion,
the
the
start,
expansion.
the
Uh,
expansion, and
uh,
then you already have enough you want to play for 70
you can,
points or
yeah.
yeah, you can mix and match, and then you just buy whatever you need after. So essentially, if you don't want to expand, if you want like those two boxes alone, it's already
Okay ka na.
75 points. Yeah, it's already
Yeah.
good. So that's what I like. It's like a project progression of the buying. So right now it's even better because like there's a smaller one, the smaller battle group box. You can start with
Yeah.
that, then get the starter, because the
Mm.
caster that comes in them are different. So you
Yeah.
don't have you'll have multiple war beasts, the jacks, the big ones, but the caster will be different. So when you buy each of them, you'll eventually complete all of them just from buying the progression.
Mm.
So that's
Yep.
what I
The big
like. I,
box
I
is a
didn't
good
have to
box.
yeah. I didn't have to like, oh, what do I buy? It just came within the box, and I have this to try, right? I have
Yep.
all these casters to try. So that's what I also liked about it.
Mm.
Thanks, Keith.
All right. Sige. Let's wrap this up now. You mentioned very competitive game. Do you have any events coming up or any tournaments coming up for War Machine?
Actually, we have a tournament in June pa. It's a steamroller, so that's competitive. my recommendation is people who want to try War Machine, they can actually join our narrative campaign. You can join it even if you don't own any models because we have sample armies in the store, and it just costs 350 to join. You'll get a free model for joining, and then you
Oh,
can just try the game with us. And you're gonna be a turn behind because turn two starts on Sunday, but it's still 6 weeks worth of War Machine, which has points for painting, storytelling, and playing. And so you'll it's a very different thing which we're modeling of War Machine. We're gonna have one for every practically every system we run, but this is the parang pilot test for this kind of style. And yeah, it's an open invitation. If anybody would like to play, you can message the page. Hi, I'm interested in the War Machine narrative campaign, or you can message me or any of the players here. They'll add you to the chat. And when you want the demo, they earn points in the campaign for demoing. So if you want to learn the game, you can just say, "Oh, ipapaturo na ako," and then that somebody, I'm sure somebody will take up the mantle kasi nga may point siya.
All right. Sige. Well, again, guys, Dragonforge, thank you so much for guesting on our
Yes.
talk show today. We are 2 hours and 11 minutes. So
Thank you.
apologies
Thank you sa
if
lahat.
we went a bit beyond our regular schedule, but hey, that's just how these work, how these talks work every now and then. So, kumusta yung the stuff that you were working on during this stream? Na-complete nyo? Are you done building or painting?
Not even like
Not
some
yet,
base
though.
coats. Some base coats.
Far from it.
Well, ayun. Well, I'm done building better, eh? So that's great.
Good for you.
But anyway,
Tapos
ayun.
ka.
actually, I have a question.
Well, anyway,
We could end it with that. I think it's a good question because I'm sure it would be nice because a lot of people probably were watching and some of them probably got their interest peaked. But anyone could probably answer this from the Dragon Force team. Could you give a summary of if I don't have any experience of any of the games that I've tried and I need to make a decision, how would I decide? Should I if I were to pick up Bolt Action, War Machine, all that stuff? What type of person should pick up what?
Okay, if you like competitive stuff and chess, you're going for War Machine because of assassination and very high technical, very high skill ceiling, I would call it, right? Skill expression. This is the miniatures game for skill expression and progression. If you like historical stuff, you go to Bolt Action or Warlord games, any of those. If you are sick of dice and you like the Wild Wild West or weird stuff, you go to Malifaux, demons and fairies. Go to Malifaux if you like that kind of stuff. And then if you like robots who are wrecking each other's faces, you go to BattleTech.
Very nice.
Because rule number one, of course, is you gotta love the models you're playing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
take a look at the
Yep.
models, and the one that says "Buy me now," that's the one. That's the system you pick up. Because I promise you, yung sabi ko nga, kalaro, sagot na namin yung kalaro. Kailangan mo na lang ng models. Not even sometimes. Kailangan mo yung store army. Pakita ka lang sa
Oh,
store.
okay. I didn't even know you guys had store armies. That's great. That's
We
great.
have store armies for everything. So you don't have to buy a single model to try any of our systems.
For those who
Oh,
are
can I get
unaware,
a
Dragon
thing
Forge
in?
is at the top floor
Oh yeah.
of the
Go ahead.
cinema in UP Town. So guys visit.
Yes.
They've been there for a while.
Wait, sorry. Someone wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just want to get a thing in because, like, John is in the audience. These are all great systems. They're all things that you can pick up and play. And remember, you can pin all of them. John, you can pin all of them.
You sick bastard.
The devil is
Okay, I know that
Ayun.
disappointment. Thank you so much, Philippine Tados group. Very
Thank
much.
you,
All
guys.
right,
Thank you
everyone.
guys for
Thank you so
joining
much.
us.
Dragon
Thank you.
Dragonforge crew, thank you so much for joining
Thanks,
us this
regular.
evening. To the Pilipintados, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. We hope
Next
to
week,
catch you
who's next
guys on our next. Sabi ni John Boo. we hope to catch you on our next live stream. That will be on
29th.
May 29. We'll be talking to
Yeah.
the IPMS crew this time. But ayun, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you on the next stream.
Bye,
Bye
guys. Hanap
bye,
mo na!
Tado.
Bye.
Hanap mo na.
Thank you.